This is March, Friday the 21st, and the first round of the NCAA Tournament continues today. Alabama will be in action, 11:40 against Robert Morris. Auburn in action yesterday. They get the win against Alabama State. A lot of folks disappointed about it. You won by 20. But not a lot of people are going to come away with positives when you don't play 2 full halves of dominant basketball, I guess, G-Mac.
They cover?
I don't believe so.
Well, that's why.
Oh, okay. Well, I could care less if they cover or not. I thought it was survive in advance at this point.
You want to know why
you
want to know why people are mad? People are mad because they didn't cover.
Yeah, not as much mad as just disappointed or not having. I mean, you won the game, survive in advance. That's the key at this time of the year. You won by 20, by the way. So to say you had some issues with turnovers. You had 12. Did you have a streak there where you allowed Alabama State to go on a run, come back in it? Yes, but you won by 20, and you're in the second round. You're going to get a good Creighton team. You got to play a lot better, but at the end of the day, you won the game, and I thought that was what the goal was here in March, is survive in advance. But a lot of folks, that's not quite enough. It's not going to get it done for them.
Just because they bet on the game.
No, it's really not it. I had a lot of people during the game just negative and look bad, look terrible. This okay. I mean, I think there was one friend of mine that texted
better than last year.
I texted in the middle of the game. This is during the Alabama State run. I said they're going to win by 20, and they're going to be in the second round. I don't know what else to tell you. If that's not enough, then honestly, what are you looking for? So it's kind of frustrating to hear people be frustrated with a 20-point win in an NCAA tournament game. But that's where we were yesterday. I don't think it had a lot to do with gambling, at least not what I was hearing. I know certain people are going to get that, but for me, that's not what it was.
No, it wasn't that then. I understand. Hey, maybe they're just holding their program to a higher standard. I'm fine with that. They've looked bad and lost 3 out of 4 going into the tournament. So, or 4 out of 5, whatever the 4 out of 5. So I don't really blame them. 3 out of 4. I don't really blame them for being frustrated with the performance. I can live with that. But I also know that the way you play in round 1 is not usually an indicator of future results. If you play terrible, you can still win it. If you play great, you can still win it. I'm not really going to panic too much. Get the win and move on to the next. Because Creighton looked good.
Well, it doesn't always feel like the teams that are dominant in the first 2 rounds just stay dominant in the 3rd and 4th rounds. It doesn't always go that way. I mean, There are teams that squeak by early. And then when Auburn went to the Final Four, they had a scare against New Mexico State. And then all of a sudden, foot on the gas, there you go. So, I mean, just because of what Houston did yesterday, I don't think that Houston's automatically in the national championship game. They got a good chance to be because they're a good basketball team. But,
how many people are overreacting to that?
Well, you put up a bad box score in an NCAA tournament game, 78-40. People are going to feel pretty good about it. Probably should.
It's true. Gonzaga or Houston yesterday, better performance?
I'm probably going to go with Houston. I mean, maybe we should flip the conversation and say worst performance yesterday. Because Georgia's 68 still going to be, I'm going to put that ahead of what SIU Edwardsville did, putting up 40. And I think everybody's going to nominate Clemson with their 13 points in the first half as being the worst performance of the day yesterday.
Yeah. Well, I do know
that was atrocious basketball.
The first half was painful.
Yes.
I mean, painful. But I would say that the second half showed great fight and resilience.
They did battle back in the second half. They scored more than they did in the first half.
Must be a good coach.
He's got to be a great coach.
Phenomenal.
Tripled up what they did in the first half. So by more, maybe quadrupled up. But either way, it was an ugly first half for Clemson. McNeese gets their first ever NCAA tournament win, 69-67. They advance. Michigan advances over UC San Diego in a tight one, 68-65. BYU over VCU, 80-71. Drake over Missouri yesterday, 67-57. Just a really impressive performance by Drake. Defensively, they caused problems the majority of the game. Turnovers an issue for Missouri, specifically late in that game. They only had 17 turnovers, by the way. And Creighton goes out, only needs 5 threes. Like we said yesterday, controlling the tempo and the pace of that game, only hit 50% of their free throws. But Bennett Sturge, player of the year in his conference, goes out and puts up 21. Drake advances. They're 31-3. So nice performance there. We mentioned Houston over SIU Edwardsville, 78-40. I mean, that's just Houston stepping on the gas and not looking back. Tennessee, 77-62 over Wofford yesterday. Lanier goes for 29 for the Vols. Impressive performance there. St. John's does not disappoint, 83-53. Wisconsin handles business over Montana, 85-67. Texas Tech over Wilmington. That was closer than I expected it to be.
Yeah.
That was about a 5-point game with 4.5 minutes left. Not that I could stay up and watch the end of it. Thought about it, didn't. But Texas Tech pulls it out 82-72. Purdue over High Point, 75-63. A&M handles Yale, 80-71. A lot of folks thought that would be scary. Payne goes for 25 and 10 for A&M. So it was a good day of basketball. Arkansas gets a win. That was one that was kind of a coin flip game for a lot of us. Weren't really sure. I felt like both teams really just kind of played well.
It was a good game.
Kind of back and forth game. Arkansas 3-point lead at the half, and they get the win 79-72 over Kansas, and Coach Cal moves on. So maybe Arkansas can put something together here in this NCAA tournament, GMAC.
I think they played really well yesterday, especially adjusting in the second half. There was a lot to be made of the zone that was employed by the Kansas Jayhawks in the second half and how that gave Arkansas such fits, but they eventually found some of the answers. I'm not a basketball XO guy. It was pretty obvious to me that they were playing zone, but I didn't ever get the sense that Arkansas looked discombobulated. Like, okay, took them maybe 2 or 3 possessions to maybe they forced a couple things and had one turnover, but I didn't feel like it was like some drastic thing the way people were making a big deal out of it. But it did show the resilience of a group that has played really well down the stretch at times. So I've maintained this from the beginning. I think Arkansas is extremely dangerous. And I get the sense that they're going to give, if they go this round, next round, what have you, whoever they play is going to have to bring their A game. Because I think Arkansas is capable. I thought Kansas played well yesterday. It just wasn't enough.
Not quite enough to be able to get that done. We will go back to Auburn's win here in just a moment, but you also look at some of the games yesterday that maybe surprised some folks. Utah State was an upset pick a lot of people had. 72-47, UCLA handles Utah State. Creighton over Louisville, 89-75. So the everybody watch out, ring the fire alarm, Louisville's going to play in Rupp is not going to happen. We can silence the panic there with that deal. Creighton shoots 57% from the floor yesterday, 11 of 24 from 3. They had 4 starters go in double figures yesterday. Jemai Neal goes for 29 points. Stephen Ashworth goes for 22 points. I mean, Creighton was on fire yesterday, and Ashworth 4 of 8 from behind the 3-point line. They shoot like that against Auburn. Let's say this. Auburn allows them to be that successful, specifically from the perimeter. It's going to be a long day for the Tigers when they see Creighton.
Correct. Extremely, extremely difficult game. But this is what's to be expected. Creighton's really good. A lot of tournament experience, been around for a while. Their coach has tons of tournament experience. And nothing about, in my opinion, nothing about Creighton is going to be an easy out. I think it's going to be a beast. So fully expect it to be a grind, fully expect it to be a hard game, and fully expect Auburn to play well. I think they'll be just fine tomorrow when they tee it up.
The other part, too, I think you look at is that 8-9 matchup. A lot of people, I think we were all collectively pretty confident with Gonzaga.
Yeah.
Having had long conversations about the West Coast Conference tournament, whatnot, and a lot of people just kind of said, man, not the team they used to be, not the same SEC team. They handled Georgia 89-68. And now with what they did to St. Mary's and now what they've done in the first round to an SEC team, albeit not the top 3 or 4 SEC team, but still, I mean, Gonzaga, I think a team that has my attention, my full attention of what they may be capable of doing in this tournament.
I don't know if I'm going that far just yet. I think it could be a little bit of an overreaction to a Georgia team that really wasn't that great. Georgia did have some good moments this year where how they performed at home, for instance, against Auburn, really good moments, sure. But all in all, they were not a team that was overly dependable. And I don't know if you kind of feel the exact same way. That's the way I've seen it. So I have a hard time anticipating I just have a hard time anticipating this group in general being overly problematic for a Houston team that looked pretty dominant. maybe I'm reading too much into the tea leaves, but I don't know. I'm a big believer in Houston.
Absolutely. So we go back to the Auburn game, and this is what we got for you today. Skip Holtz, the UFL rosters announced yesterday. Head coach of the Birmingham Stallions, going to join us at 7:20. Jason Caldwell, live from Lexington, will talk this Auburn game at 8. Mark Packer's going to preview day 2 with us at 8:20. And we'll get going with NCAA tournament talk for a lot of the day. We'll get to college football after Mark Packer. Got to talk some Alabama spring, some other news and notes going around college football, some issues in Athens again. We'll discuss all of it. But I mentioned people being frustrated with Auburn's win yesterday. It wasn't just fans. Dylan Cardwell, after the game, extremely frustrated with how Auburn did not play yesterday.
You know, we just got to be better. We got to play on fire. We got to play pissed off. And it's just frustrating to see that we're not playing pissed off. We're not playing pissed off. And we play what we did today, we're going to get beat. So I'm upset. So I'm upset.
Dylan Cardwell also on players maybe not buying in fully to where they need to be.
You know, at the end of the day, like I said, you just gotta man up. You can't just go in a game expecting we're gonna cover the spread. You can't go in the game thinking like teams aren't gonna show up. Teams are gonna play desperate. These teams want to extend their season. You know, like we're just not playing hard, and so we just need to play harder. That's really all it is. We just need to play harder and more aggressive. Like when we're clicking, when we're playing hard, when we're not slapping through stuff, when we're playing engine, we're playing a stance, no one can beat us. But it's just frustrating. Like I said, it's just frustrating to just see that we lost, you know, through the last 4. We lost to Alabama. We lost to Texas A&M. We lost to Tennessee because we weren't playing hard. And we come out here and we're still pissing away the opportunity. We got to stop doing that. We can't afford that because you have the option to go out as the best team in Auburn history or the biggest bust in the country. And, like, I don't know what these guys want to be remembered for, but at some point it's got to click. At some point it's got to click. Like, what more is it going to take? What more is it going to take? I don't want to look back when I'm 40, when I'm 50, when I'm 60, and be like, dang, I wish I got past the first weekend. Dang, I wish I played in the Final Four. Like, we're a great team. We're one of the greatest teams in the country. That's why we're number 1 overall seed. We're not playing the number 1 overall seed anymore. We're not playing like that anymore. And I don't know what more it's going to take for us to get there. We have all the kumbayas. We all have the prayer meetings. We have all these things. But what's it going to take for somebody to buy in?
So some of the players not necessarily happy with how Auburn performed either. And you hear that frustration. Is that a good thing or a bad thing for Auburn right now, Greg?
A little less talk, a little more action that's always what I say. I hear it all the time. Guys doing this, guys doing that. You have this and all the this and that and whatnot. To me, you put up or shut up, bud. Like, and that's not a reflection of him. Like, it's great to talk about it, but it needs to be shown. So I feel like a lot of people chatter after underwhelming performances, but not a lot of people actually adjust their behavior. So fingers crossed they do. We'll see if that happens. And if it does, they'll be, I think, in a probably pretty good shape to get this thing turned around. Yeah,
I will say for me, though, I didn't come across as somebody who was just trying to put words out there. That came across pretty passionate. I've talked to Dylan a few times, know him a little bit, and I didn't feel like that was for show.
No,
per se.
I don't think it was for show necessarily, but big difference talking about and big difference doing it. You know, he's just got to go do it now and get his teammates to do it.
Well, and I'll say this. I feel like you take Dylan Cardwell and Miles Kelly off the floor yesterday, I don't know if Auburn wins that game. And, I mean, I felt like from an effort perspective, Cardwell only played 20 minutes, and it's not going to be a lot of what you see in the stats. It's kind of like the rebounding with Auburn.
Yeah.
Yeah, you out-rebound Alabama State 46-36. But if you watch the game, you felt like it should have been 66-16. And there are just a lot of loose rebounds that Alabama State got that were uncontested. And a lot of times that Auburn got easier rebounds. And it didn't feel like a lot of work for a lot of the rebounds that Auburn got and allowed Alabama State to grab a lot of rebounds without a ton of work on their end. And then, of course, Miles Kelly goes out there and shoots 7 of 15 from 3, hit his first 6, which, I mean, you kind of hope the rest of the tournament could be in Rupp if he's going to shoot that way he has the last 2 games. But, I mean, without those two, I mean, Janai Broome was solid. He was solid. 14 points, 11 boards, had an assist. You know, he affected some things near the rim. I wouldn't call it dominant performance by any stretch of the imagination. You still missed 5 free throws and 3 threes. So I thought Cardwell gave the effort to be able to say these things. And obviously Miles Kelly shot the ball well, but it's obviously going to take more. And Chaney Johnson did a lot of nice things for the team yesterday. You get a 20-point win still, but not quite enough for a lot of folks, including Stephen Pearl. assistant coach of the Auburn Tiger basketball team, he thought it was embarrassing yesterday.
About the only positive is that we won the game. That's about it. It was embarrassing, honestly. To come out in an NCAA tournament game with that energy and that effort, like that's why we lost last year. We got to be so much freaking better than what we are right now. Yeah, I mean that was. If I'm Creighton, I'm licking my chops right now. I'm really excited that they're playing us. I mean, if I'm a Creighton coach, we got a lot of stuff we got to figure out in the next 24, 36 hours if we're going to actually come out there and beat a really good team. Not good enough. Really poor.
So that's Stephen Pearl after the game. And it didn't stop there. He decided he would go directly at a couple individuals with how they performed.
Positives would be Tahad and Chaney coming off the bench. Tahad plus 22 in 27 minutes. Chaney plus 19 in 28 minutes. So really good to see those guys getting back to their old ways. But Janai and Chad have to be better. They have to be better in all aspects of the game. And if they're not, we will not win. So, I would imagine that coach is going to challenge them pretty hard right now because they just didn't bring it tonight. And I have no idea why. No idea, but I thought the rest of the guys competed pretty well overall. I thought the rest of them I thought were excited to be here. But when our two best players play like that, our chances of beating a really good team are going to go down. So we got to find ways as a staff to get more out of them.
Baker Mazar finished 1 of 9 from the floor. That one field goal was a 3-pointer. He was 1 of 5 from there. Had 2 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal. So 2 turnovers. It was not a successful day in the minds of Stephen Pearl. He wanted a lot more, expected a lot more, didn't necessarily get it. But I don't know, Greg. I would rather hear this coming out of a 20-point win in round 1 than a lot of guys patting each other on the rear ends, saying how much fun it was and how happy they were to be there.
I don't think you need to necessarily go as far as to say guys are all fired up and guys are frustrated, angry, mad. But my question is, at its core, why do you think they were lethargic in the eyes of Cardwell and their coach, Stephen Pearl? What
31.5-point favorite playing a 16 seed would be my guess. I don't.
Sure, but I mean,
it's easy to look back at the last month and say a lot of it has been this way for some time. And maybe it's rotated a little bit between guys in certain aspects of the game, like the rebounding thing I mentioned earlier. It feels like a little bit of a trend now. Some of the lazy passes feels like a little bit of a trend now. And as Coach Stephen Pearl said, that's got to go away against Creighton, or it's probably going to cost you an opportunity to move on.
Yeah. Well, look, if I'm Creighton, yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I get an opportunity to play a team that is the top overall seed, and frankly, not a lot of people give us a chance going into the tournament. I'm fired up, but I'm not sure it has anything to do with Auburn's effort level on the court. My reasoning for being fired up is the opportunity to go play the number 1 overall seed and knock them out. That's what I'm excited about, but I don't know. We'll see. I mean, Auburn's still a heavy favorite going into the game tomorrow. We'll see where that line finishes up, but I think they should feel pretty good about where they stand. But yes, there are areas in which things could be cleaned up for sure.
Yeah, I think I'd be fired up that I just shot 32 of 56 from the floor and 11 of 24 from 3, and we get to go play in that building again. I'd probably be excited about that if I were Creighton. You should be excited about your CBD store and what they can do for you. If you're lacking sleep, maybe you're trying to lose some weight, need to curb the appetite a little bit, the Trim by SunMed on the shelves now at the largest brick-and-mortar CBD retailer in the world. Your CBD store, first company to have USDA certified organic oil supplements. They've got the stamp seal on those products, so they're going to meet and achieve a certain set of standards and tests. Arthritis, anxiety for you or your pet, skin care, gut health for you or your pet, they have answers. Visit one of their 3 locations, Highway 280 by Bailey Brothers, 150 by the Cage in Cleaver, Trustful just off 459, your CBD store, where good health hits home. When we come back, we'll shift from college basketball to spring football, but not spring football games that may or may not happen, actual games that will take place. UFL rosters set yesterday. The head coach of the Birmingham Stallions, Skip Holtzby, with us to discuss his right after this on Mac and Cube in the morning. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Friday, March 21st on Jocks 94.5. Going to get to Skip Holtz here in just a moment. Talk his first roster that is set in stone for this upcoming UFL season. But first, Greg, tell our listeners about Polar Bear Services.
Polar Bear Services has been a great place that I've gone to on a regular basis. It's been terrific and very much appreciate everything that they've done for me around my home. It's great. I'm telling you, it's phenomenal. When I look at the experience that I've had with Polar Bear Services, they've done my plumbing, they've done electrical, they've, of course, done a great job taking care of my HVAC system, and that's what's being put to the test right now with the heat running at night and the AC running during the day. Make sure that you go and get things figured out and taken care of at Polar Bear Services before things get really hot this summer. Go and check them out. And remember, if you have a problem with your heat or air, pick up the phone and call the Bear. It's 205-497-BEAR. That's 497-BEAR.
Skip Holtz, head coach of the Birmingham Stallions, set to kick off their season next weekend. Roster now set. Joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Coach, I look at your roster and I almost think that it reminds me of some college rosters where the transfer portal is today. It's like you want to hang on to your veterans and the guys you have some familiarity with, and if you can pick and choose a few guys here and there that could help you in an area that maybe you needed it or you could just get a little bit better in, you're able to do that. But where are you now from a comfort level compared to, let's just say, 2-3 years ago with the core that you know is coming back for your club?
Well, compared to 2 or 3 years ago, it's not even close. I mean, 2 or 3 years ago, everybody was a new face. I had a bunch of names on my board and didn't even know what we had after that first year. A lot of unknown then, but I tell you, I think this league, I keep saying this, but this league is getting better and better. And you're seeing more and more players looking at spring football as a viable option to regenerate their career and give it a jump start and get back into the NFL. And so I think you're seeing guys that are out of the NFL that used to sit down and say, well, I'm going to wait for the NFL to call, are now saying, you know what, I'm going to bet on myself and I'm going to go play. And so it's been fun. It's been exciting. It certainly made it very interesting with the talent that we had in this camp. And you have to, yesterday was the day that we had to go from 64 down to 50 and had to make some really hard decisions. And the hard part with this, you can't keep them all. And that's the tough part about pro ball. You can't keep them all. You don't have 105 or 120 players on your roster. And we had to say goodbye to some really good football players. But I feel really good about the players that we kept. And as you talked about, one of the things that I really wanted to do was I wanted to make sure we kept our core together. You fall into the trap sometimes as the grass is always greener. Oh, he's better. And really, you look at the spring, you look at the fall as an opportunity to get better. How do you improve your football team? How can you improve it? And we did. We kept a lot of veterans. We kept a lot of guys. There's a lot of familiarity. I think we have about half of our roster is returning, maybe just over half are returning players off last year's team. And then there's a lot of new faces. And you have guys like Alex Magoo and Petway and Davion Davis and Austin Watkins. And you had some guys that maybe were with us 2 years ago, went into the NFL last year, and now we're back again. So I like having players that have been in your offense and your defense for 2 or 3 years, because you can get past the hurdle of what to do, and you're really starting to focus more on how to do it. And I think that has probably been the biggest difference in this camp to the camps we've had in the past, is you really get an opportunity to jump really into the weeds and the details and what's going to make plays successful.
How difficult is it, Coach, to keep that continuity, to knowing that there is turnover, knowing that, gosh, this team has played in multiple leagues, the NFL is always dangling the carrot. How difficult is it to get those guys to kind of buy in? Or are you seeing now, as we really have proof of concept and proof of success with the UFL, do you feel like that pitch that you're making to your players may be a little easier than it once was?
Well, they're now calling us. I mean, that's the thing that's going on now. People are looking at the future and saying, all right, I just got released from the NFL where I want to play. they're calling us and saying, hey, what do we need to do to get in the UFL? And I think, like I said, there's better and better players every year. So I think the thing that you have to be leery of, and to me, one of the key components to putting this football team together during the fall or during the off season was I don't want to lose our core. I don't want to lose the core of players that have been here, that have played for us. We've had a little bit of success. So it's not like it's all broken. So it's not like, all right, let's change out everything. Let's overhaul the engine. I don't think we need to do that. I think we just need to refine a little bit. And so you try and bring some better players in here, and then you got to put your chemistry together. You got to identify who your leadership is out of a lot of these new faces that are on this roster. But if you don't get better, if you take the mindset, well, what we had last year was good enough to win, we're going to stick with it again next year, then I think the whole league's going to get better and you're going to stay the same. And so I think that's been one of the real battle cries that we've tried to approach this is how do we get better? How can we improve our roster? And is there a guy out there that gives us an opportunity to improve? And that was the whole mindset. And what we were trying to do is how do we put the best football team together with the tools that are available to us right now to be able to go out there and be successful on the field. Skip
Holtz, head coach of the Birmingham Stallions, joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Have the numbers changed much for you? We've been around it a couple of years now. I know depth in the trenches has been concerning for pretty much everyone. You would all love to have a little bit more of that, both on offense and defense. Maybe it's adding another receiver or two because of some depth concerns there. Different guys that can do different things for you with more versatility at one spot, a position maybe you didn't think you'd have the emphasis on that you did. Where have your numbers shifted from a roster perspective from a couple of years ago to now?
I don't know that the overall numbers have changed, again, because we've brought 58 to camp and cut down to 50. We've brought 75 when the merger happened because there were a lot of players available and cut down to 50. This year we brought 64 to camp and cut down to 50. So you've had a different number in camp every year. But the number you play with has been the same. And it's really, we've kind of found some comfort level, so to speak, with how do you do 50 players? How do you make this work? And then with what you're able to activate on game day. But the one thing that's constant in spring football is change. That is the one constant, is there's going to be change. I know in the quarterback room, we lost Adrian Martinez to the Jets and J.Mar Smith to retirement, but brought in Alex Magoo back and Case Cookus in. So I think you're going to carry 3 quarterbacks. We've carried about 8 linemen. We've carried about 3 running backs, about 3 tight ends, and about 7 wide receivers. On the defensive side of the ball, we've brought about 8 defensive linemen in. We want to carry about 5 linebackers, and then in the back end, you want to carry about 10. And so the numbers there, as far as how many we carry, are the same, because the one thing that's been pretty constant is what the final roster number is going to be and how many you're able to activate on game day. And right now that's been kind of a winning formula for us. So we're not changing the overall numbers, but many of the faces have changed.
As you think about how the league has evolved and where teams have gone, and you've seen some changes made with some of the approaches by some teams and some coaches, some staffs, what do you think is going to overall be the biggest difference this year from what we've seen in the years past?
I think the talent level is much better. I mean, I'm even seeing that in our joint practices. I think the level of competition to make a roster is much more difficult. I think there's some really good football players with some phenomenal resumes that are in this league that maybe aren't making a roster. I think that the league is getting better and better, and I think you're going to see depth is probably the biggest difference. That all of a sudden with what you're going to keep, like we talked about the 3 quarterbacks, I really like the 3 quarterbacks we have. I really like the 3 tight ends we have right now. I think I like what we're doing. The defensive tackles, the linebackers are getting better. And like I said, when you look at this, there's a lot of new faces on this roster, but some very, very talented players. So I think that'll be the biggest thing for people that are watching the product. I think the product is going to be it's going to be as strong as it's ever been. I think the competitive level from the top team to the bottom team, I think anybody can beat anybody in this league because everybody's going to have talent. And, football's a great game, and it's a team game, and it's you got to play it with a mindset each and every week. And if you come one day and you're not on your best and you're not focused and dialed in, anybody can beat you. So I think it's going to be a great product. I think it's going to be a great year, but I think it's one of those things, shake them up and roll them out, and let's see what's going to happen.
Coach Holt's joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Before we let you go, for Stallions fans tuned in, is there a guy you would give them to sort of say, hey, I know you know our team, you know our roster, but make sure this is one you might want to be excited about. This is one you should maybe look forward to early in the season that could help us in a little bit of a different way because you didn't have him prior.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of faces, I think there's 4 starting offensive linemen, the running backs, and C.J. Marable and Ricky Persons are back. Tizino, our leading tackler's back. A.J. Thomas, Kenny Robinson. We've got some really good players that are returning. But I think when you look at the new players, I think we've got 4 new offensive linemen that I think are really going to do a good job. Not that a lot of people go from the stands and start, evaluating your offensive line or following those guys. But I really like the 4 new faces we have in that room. Petway is back, who was here before. J.T. Thomas has had a phenomenal spring. A phenomenal camp for us. Davion Davis and Austin Watkins are back. Those are some big names on top of the Amari Rogers and Deion Keynes and Marlon Williams and some of the guys that are back. On the defensive side of the ball, Perry and Winfrey, a defensive tackle, I think really has a chance to make a huge impact. That's somebody that everybody's going to hear. Everybody's going to hear his name called. We have 4 new defensive ends. We've got a lot of new faces in that room right now, but I think really athletic, long, lean, I think are going to be able to wreak some havoc. I like our 2 new linebackers. When you talk about Tate Crowdle and Chappelle Russell, I think are going to be names that a lot of guys are going to hear. And we've got a bunch of new corners in the room back there. So a lot of new faces like we talked about, but I think it's going to be exciting to see it come together. And I think there's some great individual players, but the biggest thing that I'm really anxious to see now that we have made our cuts and have our final roster together is what's the chemistry going to be like? How are we going to join together? How are we going to become a team? Who are going to be the leaders? Because we're going to have adversity at some point in time during the season, and how are we going to handle it? And we better be a close-knit group, and we better have some leaders, some strong leadership to be able to get us through some of the difficult times. And I really praise the players from the past and what they've been able to do and what we've been able to accomplish. But as we go into this season, we're 0-0. We have not won a game. We have not lost a game. And right now we've got a blank piece of paper in front of us, and we're about to put something together, and I'm excited to see what it's going to look like when we finally finish.
Well, Coach, the fans might not come out and ask you that, but I will be on the call for your first game, and I will have your sideline, so we may be talking some O-line at some point in time. So just
I love it. I love it. Well, we'll be talking about the Barry Wesley and Latavius Simmons and Keaton Sutherland and Jaron Jones and some of these new faces that are up there. But like I said, I like our team. I feel like we are top to bottom. Our 50 is probably the best team we've had. When you look at it from an individual standpoint. But I think if you went around this league and asked all 8 teams, they'd feel the same way. I just think the league is getting much better from top to bottom from a talent personnel. So it's going to take more than it has in the past, but I like what we're trying to put together right now where we are.
Coach, thanks for the time this morning. Look forward to seeing you next weekend.
Giddy up. I look forward to it. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
There you go. Skip Holt, head coach of the Birmingham Stallions, joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services. Some names you'll recognize are going to be new. Jaron Jones is the tackle from Notre Dame. Greg, Coach mentioned him. He'll be added. Bradley Anai, defensive end out of Utah. We all remember him. He's a really good player in college. Shaheem Carter, corner out of Alabama, is going to be on the team.
Saw that.
Of course, we know that name. Tate Crowder, linebacker from Georgia. You know him. He's a name that I think people are going to know.
Anai on there as well.
Yeah.
From NC State.
Yep.
He was a great player. In college. I don't know what he's been doing as much lately. Has he been on the team for a couple of years?
I don't think so.
He's a good player. So yeah, exciting time. And we tee it up in 9 days?
It sounds right. Next Saturday, I think they go.
Next
8
Saturday,
days.
Stallions go?
Yeah,
8 days?
No, the Stallions are on Sunday.
Stallions are Sunday.
But I think the league starts on Saturday.
Beautiful. It's going to be a blast, man. It's going to be a great year. And take your kids because it's a great experience. I take my kids a couple times, man. It's always a good time. It's nice now not to be working it because I can actually go to Stallions games.
There you go.
You've had one last year?
No, I had 2 here, the last 2, because I had the last home game,
That's
and then we had
right.
the same 2 teams again in the first round of the playoffs. But yeah, so it's
Where are you at week 1? Do we know yet?
in DC, Birmingham at DC week
Love that.
1. Yes.
Yeah, DC.
So
that's right.
we'll have Birmingham, but will not be a
Bum.
home game.
Are you going to ride with the team?
No, because they don't leave from here. So
You going to fly to Dallas, ride with the team,
Then ride with the team,
fly back,
yeah.
then fly here?
yeah, league starts on Friday. By the way, that's 7 o'clock on Fox. You'll get a Friday night kick between the Battlehawks and the Roughnecks, and then Saturday you'll get San Antonio at Arlington. That's a 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock kick here on Fox, and then we go Sunday, Michigan at Memphis. That's at 11 a.m. on ESPN, followed by the game that we'll be doing, the Birmingham Stallions and the DC Defenders from DC. So that's a 2 o'clock kick.
Remind me, they did not start at this time last year.
Earlier.
Correct? It was earlier, right?
Yep.
How much earlier, though? Like quite a few weeks?
I think 2 years ago was the week after the Super Bowl, and then they bumped it back just a little bit, and then they bumped it back a little bit more this year.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I remember I was doing it the week after Super Bowl, and we went right into it.
Yes.
But I didn't know when it started last year. I couldn't remember. I feel like it was in February, but I just can't remember.
I do like the break a little bit.
Heck yeah,
but
for you.
but I also liked getting right back into it. I mean,
I don't know. I like the break.
it's been nice, but we're back now. So here it comes. Spring football coming your way in a little over a week. We will put that aside, go back to college basketball. What do Alabama fans want to see today against Robert Morris? What do you expect to see? We'll begin that conversation right after this on Mac and Cube in the morning. Friday, March 21st, 7:43. College basketball gets going. Second half of round one today at 11:15. The 9-seed Baylor taking on the 8-seed Mississippi State Bulldogs. And right after that begins, 11:40 on True TV. The 15-seed Robert Morris, 26-8, taking on the number 2 seed Alabama. Your thoughts on this one just kind of right now? Big picture perspective, what you want to see. There's not a lot of people that really are even talking about this game being a true challenge or being one that's going to be difficult for Alabama because of a scheme or a system or an individual player. It's one that they should handle. But what do you want to see? What are you thinking about it right off the top?
Grant Nelson. Simple as that. That's pretty much it. As of this moment, he is a game time decision. There's buzz that he might not play because they feel good about the matchup. I don't know if that's a good move or a bad move. I kind of lean towards if he's capable of going, even if it's at less than 100%, I'd like to see him out there. But I don't know the extent of the injury. That's pretty much where my hopes for Alabama land for this tournament is. I'm under the assumption that Grant Nelson's going to be capable of giving you really good minutes. I hope, I just don't know. Ankles are tricky. And for a big guy, they're increasingly tricky. So that'll be what I'm watching most closely here in the early going.
All right. So what do you need to know about this one? We'll begin to sort of break it down, have a discussion around what Alabama's going to see, maybe what you need to know once they take the floor against the
Colonels?
Close.
I feel like I can see their logo.
Congratulations. We're asking for what the actual mascot is.
Cavalry.
Colonials. But hey.
That's what it Colonels looks like when you try to read it.
Yes.
Colonel.
I was going to say take the floor and go right into Chenor flooring somehow, but you ruined that. So just tell people
just take
what
it.
they
Yeah,
can do.
Fu is a guy that you can trust. I don't know if he would have gotten the Colonials there, but liked the play either way. I do know that Chenor Flooring, they have 40,000 square feet of Core-Tech flooring by Shaw in stock. This is kid-proof, pet-proof, waterproof, perfect for kitchens, laundry rooms, bathrooms, really everywhere. This is flooring that will increase the value of your home. And Chenor Flooring is my go-to for flooring, and know that they have 40,000 square feet of flooring in stock is fantastic. This is just a terrific opportunity for you to take advantage, and you can get 12 months financing with approved credit. So if you're thinking about making some adjustments to your floors, call Fu, call them at 205-518-6423 or go online at fuandyou.com.
All right, when we come back, Robert Morris, what do you need to know next on Mac and Cube in the morning? Your tip times for tomorrow have been announced. It will begin at 11:10 on CBS. That'll be McNeese and Purdue. Following that on CBS, you'll get Arkansas St. John's. Then you'll get Michigan Texas A&M. Over on TNT at 5:10, you'll get Drake and versus UNC Wilmington or Texas Tech. That'll be Texas Tech. Sorry, they won that game. And then at 6:10 on, is this TBS and True TV or one or the other?
I think it's both. I think after the first and second days of the tournament, True TV's had their run and just now
they just latch on?
Yeah.
You'll get Creighton and Auburn, Brian Anderson, Jim Jackson, Allie LaForce, the same crew you had for the game yesterday. And then on CBS at 6:45, you'll get Nessler, Haywood, and Jacobson calling BYU and Wisconsin. TNT at 7:40, you'll get Gonzaga, Houston. At 8:40, you'll get UCLA in Tennessee. So that's kind of your schedule for tomorrow's games. Today, we know Alabama gets Robert Morris. A private university in
Virginia?
It feels right.
Texas?
It's not.
No, it's like in the Northeast.
They're colonial, I guess.
Pennsylvania?
Wyoming.
Pennsylvania would be correct, yes.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
I'll empty the bank account if you can get the city.
Oh,
You're not. It's Moon Township, Pennsylvania.
I was going to say Sun Township.
Right
Dang
there
it.
with it. That's it. Founded in 1921, named after
Robert Morris?
You got it.
Oh, okay.
And he was known as the
Cigarette Baron.
I think that's Philip.
His brother Philip?
Yeah. Who knew?
Financier of the American Revolution.
Oh, so he was the front man,
So
where
he's
Philip
bred-
Morris was out doing the dirty work.
He's super
okay.
breaded.
Yeah.
Okay.
5,000 students, 60 bachelor degree programs, 35 master's and doctoral programs. So there you go.
Wow.
$38.2 million endowment. Currently, right now, just over 3,700 undergrads.
Huh. All right.
So that is what you're looking
3,700 undergrads.
at. That's what you're looking at today.
So you are
Robert
looking,
Morris.
it's about the size of my high school, just a little bit bigger.
Some notable alumni you may be familiar with. Charlie Batch,
Quarterback?
apparently.
Or is that the silent film actor?
No, it's the
Honestly, it
football
could be
player.
either one. You never know.
Kevin Colbert, GM of the Steelers. You probably know this one, Greg. Kristen Welsh.
Is he a soccer player?
She is a hockey player, but we know you're a big hockey guy. So
Yeah, I watch a lot of women's hockey.
Also, Brianne McLaughlin, a women's hockey goalie. I hadn't seen the tape on Robert Morris
They
women's
must
hockey, but
they must
apparently
be
it's
women's
big
hockey
time.
powerhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. I got nothing on Robert Morris. Everything I read, seriously, and I really don't like this. Everything I read was like Robert Morris is they better enjoy their trip to Cleveland. Like, cuz it's going to be over. I was like, golly, I don't like how everyone's just writing off Robert Morris. It always makes me a little bit uncomfortable, but from what I gather, it should not be an overwhelmingly competitive game. It's just a bad matchup for the Colonels.
Yeah.
For the Colonial Colonels.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't Wale go there?
Who?
I don't have that one down, but I do have Phyllis Hyman,
So could be the same person, I guess. Okay.
American singer, songwriter, and actress. Known most for.
Singing and acting?
That's it. You got it. That was the one. Correct.
Love that. What's her most notable song? Was it a Queen cover?
Pharoah Sanders and the Fatback Band.
Come again?
So the 40s. Oh, okay. All right. Something that was a minute and a half.
This is the 70s. Same thing.
Not with that name.
She released her first solo album, Phyllis Hyman, in 1977 on Buddha Records.
Mm-hmm.
You remember the big feud between Buddha and Interscope back in the day.
Who doesn't remember
Guess
that?
Big Bang took Little Bang with that one.
Extremely
was that
stressful.
Buddha and God records that were going back and forth against one another. So, yeah. In other words, like Greg said, there's not a ton to give you on Robert Morris. So we do have a Robert Morris grad listening in Birmingham who's tweeted in a couple of times, who I don't think also has shown a lot of confidence in what we're going to get today. So why do you play Grant Nelson today, Greg, if he's even possibly available?
Because if it doesn't get worse, then if he can play on it and it isn't going to worsen the pain, then you play. That's just the way I look at it. If it can't get worse, play. Because I've always been of the belief, especially with like ankles and stuff, like sometimes the best thing for it is like to just get out there and move. Like, I don't know, for me at least, like that always made me feel. I've had several ankle sprains, high ankle sprains. They're not fun. They're not comfortable, but I always felt a little better after I like played and moved around and did some things. I feel like it was worse when there was no blood flow to the area. I'm not a doctor. I have no idea if that's accurate, but I've played through it and I feel like I've kind of gotten through it on the other side, feeling better than I did going into it in some cases.
Okay. So we've mentioned Robert Morse. We have an idea what they are. Let's give you a bracket breakdown made possible by Andrews Sports Medicine. This is what you're going to get today. 26-8 on the season, 9th tournament appearance. They are 2-8 all time in the tournament. They're looking to advance to the round of 32 for the first time, though. So both those came in first 4 games. They're on a 10-game win streak currently, tied for 6th longest active streak in Division I. They've averaged 79.5 points and shooting 49% from the field during that streak, 37% from 3. Alvaro Forgueres leads the team in scoring, and during that win streak is averaging 17.8 per game from the floor, 20 of 37 from 3, 7.1 rebounds per game over that 10-game win streak. So if there's a name you want to know for today, it's Alvaro Forgueres for Robert Morris. The one Greg's been telling you about for weeks to get prepared for.
That's the one I'm worried about.
Back with more after this. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. A couple folks tweeting in quickly before we get going. 8 a.m., hour number 2 underway. Jason Caldwell will join us in just a moment. Deuce May tweets in, no cap, my mama put me on Phyllis Hyman and her self-title album hits hard. Have to go check that out then. I haven't heard the tape on that one. We'll go listen. Jolly tweets in, tell him G-Mac rub some date on it and suck it up.
Date.
Harry tweets in, RMU will bring their A game today, so Alabama better be shooting well today. Hashtag RMU alumni.
Uh-huh.
First time that hashtag's been used into this show, I believe.
Do you know what their mascot's called?
Colonials?
Romo. For Robert Morris.
So we should have low expectations for them in the
No,
postseason?
they'll fall apart in the postseason. 'Cause
Wow.
It's Romo. Yeah.
Haters.
And they'll probably telegraph a play.
Oh.
Oh, my goodness. Here
Well, it
we
depends
go.
on how early they're doing it. If
Oh,
it's
you're
year 3 or
right,
4, they don't do that anymore.
Oh, okay.
Godfather of Soul tweets is in March Madness. 14 explanation points. Historic SEC participation. Historic representation for the local market. Most exciting 4 days in all sports. Let's discuss. Hope you heard the first 15 minutes of the show when we did. And then the last 5 before that previous break, we also did. Maybe 10 there. And going to again now with Jason Caldwell, who's live in Lexington inside the Auburn Tigers, joins us to discuss Auburn's trip there and the most exciting 4 days of sports. Forgive our 15-minute break that we took there to go discuss football, but we'll get right back into March Madness with historic SEC and in-state participation for the local market. Jason, appreciate you taking some time to join us on the Higginbotham Hotline. What was the feel of the team on the court yesterday? We've heard from Dylan Cardwell and Stephen Pearl after. Obviously, there was frustration, but what did you see from that team on the court that maybe some things we didn't pick up on television?
Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, the thing that my first thought was this is pretty much the same team I've seen for the last 5 weeks. It didn't feel much different. Even though, they said all the right things, pre tip off, and when in the press conferences about how they were mad and how, they were still remembering Yale, all that stuff. And then they went out and it didn't seem like that impacted their play a whole lot. And I think that's probably where they were coming from, is that, I talked to a couple of people after the game and the lack of a sense of urgency. And they didn't have to have that yesterday to win, but you would have liked to have seen it, because it's you can't, the thought, and the old thought is you just flip a switch. Well, it's easier said than done to flip a switch and go, okay, now, let's get back to what we were. Well, it's hard to do that. And I think that's the thing. I think they were disappointed because they didn't see that yesterday. Sometimes that happens when you have success and you make shots and do those things. And honestly, other than a couple of guys yesterday, nobody really made very many shots. Now, they scored a bunch of points still, but it just felt like it was going through the motions a little bit, like we're the 1 seed. This is a 16. We'll be okay. And I think that was probably the disappointment and I think you heard that in postgame from a couple of guys. And I kind of sensed it as well. It felt like it was, okay, let's just get this one out of the way and then we'll move on. And they played like that.
What do you think? What can Bruce Pearl do to maybe ignite them a bit? Because we heard a lot of talking. We heard some of the players come out. We saw Stephen Pearl come out, maybe pretty outspoken about the underwhelming effort provided from the team. Like what can be done to kind of jumpstart the engine, and why were they in cruise control?
Yeah, that's the question. And I don't know that at this point, I don't know a whole lot that you can do. If they, sooner or later, it has to be on a player to go, okay, all right, I'm going to handle this differently. And I don't think it was totally because I still think the defensive effort was there for the most part. Early on, there were a couple of lapses here or there, but it just felt like it was kind of nonchalant, some on the offensive end. And so, honestly, you get this point in the season, I don't put a whole lot on coaches. There's only so much you can tell a guy, especially a team full of older guys, that they have to handle it themselves. And so that's why I think you saw Dylan Cardwell maybe speaking up a little bit more, because it has to come from the players at some point. And, we'll see. Because it's going to take a much better effort than they put up yesterday if they want to advance to Atlanta. Because Creighton, I don't know if Creighton will play the way they did because that Louisville didn't put up much of a fight on defense. But that's a really good basketball team that you're playing on Saturday. And, yeah, they had 10 losses, but, Alabama beat them by 8. And they played close games against St. John's and UConn and people like that. This team has been up against some teams in some wars this year, and they're not going to back down. So you're going to have to play much better if you want to win on Saturday.
Jason Caldwell, inside the Auburn Tigers magazine, joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. He's live in Lexington covering Auburn's win against Alabama State yesterday. They'll take on Creighton tomorrow. I'm interested in certain aspects of the game that were discussed. We've kind of mentioned the effort overall, but like for me, you see still lazy passes, rebounding. You see kind of a lack of effort at times. What else was addressed by either coaches or players that you heard yesterday after the game?
Yeah, and nothing specifically like that, but that was for me the thing. It was some of those where, the passes, not crisp passes, and it just felt like it was kind of a little bit of going through the motions. And so those were things. I do think there were some positives out of the game, and that was talked about too. I think getting Chaney Johnson going was a really big positive for this team because he's been a guy that has really been, kind of the other inside scorer for this team. And I think one of the keys for that was that it wasn't all every possession, Janai Broome back to the basket, clogging the lane, because Chaney Johnson needs some room to work. And, they didn't do that all day yesterday. Now, part of the problem with that was they shot way too many threes. And so, this isn't a team that needs to be shooting 35 threes a game. That's not the way they need to be playing. But it did open up some things for Chaney Johnson. I thought he responded, so I thought that was a positive. And then, Todd Pettit for Denver Jones, a couple of turnovers here or there, but I thought overall those two guys played pretty well. And so for me, those were two things. And obviously Miles Kelly really likes Rupp Arena. He got 16 threes in 2 games here. And I would go into the next one against Creighton going, hey, bud, if you want to shoot 15 more threes, go right ahead, because he obviously has a pretty good feeling for that building.
What do you think this matchup's going to look like tomorrow evening against Creighton? It's obviously a team that's been around. They've seen the tournament. They come from a great league in the Big East. They're battle tested and looked pretty outstanding yesterday. What do you think this matchup looks like?
Yeah, obviously I think it probably looks different than what Creighton did yesterday, because I thought Louisville's defense was not very good at all. Auburn's defense should match up better with this Creighton team, but Ryan Kalkbrenner is a matchup nightmare inside because he looks, like those Florida guys. Now he's probably not as athletic as a couple of those guys are, but he's really long, and they use him around the rim a bunch. So this is going to be a challenging game for Broome and Dylan Cardwell, mainly to stay out of foul trouble. That's the flip side of this. Creighton doesn't foul a bunch. They play defense without fouling, and so you're not going to get a bunch of freebies in the paint. They depend on Kalkbrenner to handle his business inside. So this is, I don't know that they'll double Broome a lot. So this could be a game where, you have an opportunity to get some plays inside. But yeah, for Auburn defensively, it's going to be, a challenge with Neal outside, who's really athletic at 6'5", 6'6", and then a classic old school point guard that runs the show, makes great decisions. For Denver Jones, controlling him out front will be the name of the game, and ultimately probably decide, what happens for Auburn on Saturday.
So one of the things that Jason Caldwell, inside the Auburn Tigers magazine, joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline, it only felt like I could count on one hand the entry passes to Broome in the post. Based on what Creighton's going to bring, do you need more of that? Do you have to have that to win this game?
Yeah, I think yesterday that Alabama State looked like we can't live, and they knew they couldn't live playing one-on-one in the post with a 190-pound big man. So I think they decided we're going to double every time and double quickly. And, Auburn got it in some, but like you said, there weren't a ton of those and the reason why there weren't a ton of those because Auburn took a lot of early threes. And they shot 35 threes and 25 shots inside the three-point line. When Auburn is 10 more plus 10 from outside the arc than inside the arc, then it feels like everything was a little bit off, and it was. And so, like I said, Miles Kelly had 15 of those attempts, but he also made 7 of them. The rest of the team was 5 of 20. And so, I think you have to work everything. But I do think that towards the end of the year they became too dependent on Broom's back to the basket play, and it caused them to kind of get stagnant a little bit offensively. So you have to do that, obviously, but I do think they have to try to get away. And here's the thing that's interesting about this game: when Creighton gets a rebound, they want to run. They push the ball up the court every time. You look at Greg McDermott; he is waving his arms, saying, "Get up the court." Can Auburn get some of that fast break? They need to get some transition baskets and easy baskets. That's the thing that's been missing from this offense for a while. And so I think you need to – obviously you got to work through Broom, but, man, they need to try to get the tempo up a little bit.
Who do you think is the key for a really deep run? Is it Broom? Is it Tahad Pettiford? Is it Chaney? Is it Chad Baker-Mazara? Who do you think is the most imperative player to play at a ridiculously high level for this team to go win the championship for the very first time?
Yeah, obviously. I mean, you got your best players have to play their best. And so, I mean, you look at Broom and you go, man, he needs to play well. I think those three guys, if nothing else, they need to rebound the basketball at a high level. They've done that at times, but it hasn't been consistent really all year. But I think, to me, Tahad Pettiford's your most explosive guy. He's your guy that can create his own shot, do some of those things. And he's played usually his best in the biggest moments. And so I really think that Tahad Pettiford is kind of the X factor for this team because of his ability to do those things, individually. And when you get in the NCAA tournament, you got to have guys like that can make plays. And so I think if Tahad Pettiford can turn it on, then it would be huge for this team.
Jason, appreciate the updates, man. Thanks for getting up and chatting with us. Enjoy the rest of that regional, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
There you go. Jason Caldwell, inside the Auburn Tigers magazine, joining us from Lexington, just kind of giving us an update on what things looked like, what things sounded like, how things have been since he's been there covering this game. AuburnUndercover.com. You can find him there at ITAT Jason on Twitter. Go follow him there as well. It doesn't feel like it's changed a whole lot, Greg, and some of the things that we talked about yesterday going into this game of what needs to happen, what needs to be different for Auburn. Broom obviously is going to have to be great. You brought up Pettiford yesterday. Chad Baker-Mazara has been brought up, and then just cut down some of the sloppy passes, emphasis on rebound. If you get some shots, you're going to have a chance to win a lot of games.
Absolutely. And I think that it's really key for them to just continue to keep the pedal press. Like yesterday, I didn't feel like the energy was lacking with the exception of about 8 minutes. Like there's about 8 minutes there. I was like, all right, well, we're comfortable. And then all of a sudden,
it was a real lull, though. Like it was visible. You could see it.
You could. And there were a couple good moments, too, by Alabama State, and it got a little uncomfortable for a minute there at the end of the half. And then, boom, it's like, all right, enough of this. They score 8 straight. Next thing you know, they're up by 10 at the half. You know what I mean? I mean, it's never really – I never really felt any level of concern yesterday, but it was pretty obvious that they were kind of going through the motions, and you just have to avoid those lapses when playing against teams that can go and run and play with you for 40 minutes.
Oh, my 7-year-old was losing it, and I'm just like, buddy – a lot of ball left. I feel like I tell you that in every game that we watch.
Oh, yeah.
This is like they're going to win by 20, and they're going to the next round. That's all that matters. And he didn't want to hear that at that point in time, but frustration had set in for a lot of folks in our house. But it's you moving on, and you're going to play in the next round. And I do think that's one thing interesting about this tournament. Not so much on the same weekends. But if you can get past Creighton, very rarely do you see the exact same teams from weekend to weekend, maybe game to game in the same place, but it doesn't always carry over weekend to weekend because you get that break off. You're playing in a different venue. It's just, and you're not, there's no opponent familiarity like there is in the regular season where you can beat a team by 15 and then come back and lose by 5 because it's easier to make those adjustments when you see the same teams week in, week out. And you have that familiarity with them from year to year. But that's the March Madness talk for you. Great representation for the local market. SEC historic participation that we've got going. We have addressed it.
Is somebody mad that we didn't talk about?
Yes.
Well, what do you want to do? You want to break it? You want us to break it down?
They wanted us to keep
hours?
going into it during our Skip Holtz interview. I think they wanted us to ask Coach Holtz about Robert Morris's chances of knocking off Alabama, actually, is what we were looking for.
Like that.
But we didn't get it.
You think Coach Holtz is dialed in to what Nate Oates' scheme will be today?
Probably. Why wouldn't he be?
He's a coach's coach.
Game Day Men's Health is dialed into you. All you got to do, go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com, set up a free consultation. You get a free PSA test, free testosterone test, and then they're going to know exactly where you are. So they're going to be dialed into your health, what it looks like, what it needs. They have multiple weight loss programs. They've got the testosterone replacement therapy. They have the peptides. So just to try and help you feel better, there are a lot of ways they can help. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com right now. Schedule that free consultation. You get the free PSA, free testosterone test, and there's a minimal upfront cost for all the programs that they offer. Flexible, holistic approach to wellness, no pressure, not going to try to force you into things that you don't need. Just want to get your health where you want it. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com today. Mention Mac and Cube. Save 10% on any service they offer and set up that free consultation. All right, we are going to go away from college basketball for just a moment and talk a little bit of Alabama spring football. Actually, we're not. Mark Packer's going to join us next. I was just kidding because we have historic SEC participation and we have historic representation for the local market. So we need to keep talking March Madness. And we're going to do that with Mark Packer right after this. More March Madness, historic SEC participation, historic representation from the local market. What, John?
I just love how you just keep poking, just keep letting them know. Got to let these naysayers know.
Dishing out. You better be able to take it.
Got him.
8:19, Friday, March 21st. Mark Packer joining us now to discuss March Madness. And ACC, a little bit of struggle early on. Mark, I thought Clemson was a really good basketball team this year. And I love McNeese. But I struggle with that game because I thought a lot of people just didn't have an understanding of how good Clemson was during the course of this regular season. What do you think of them now after what you saw yesterday?
Cole, to say yesterday was a struggle would be an understatement. I mean, Louisville and Clemson went 18-2 respectively in a conference that certainly is down, and both of them yesterday trailed in their games by 34 and 36 minutes respectively. They both got worked, let's be honest. I thought it was a tough draw for Louisville, first of all. Creighton's a really good team, well coached. But I thought Clemson would beat McNeese. I just thought they're big. They had such a size advantage that they would figure it out. But, man, Will Wade did a great job, came up with a new zone. The Tigers really never quite figured out until it was just desperation time. But they got outplayed. I mean, they got outworked, out-hustled, out-coached. And that, to me, quite frankly, is a perfect snapshot of why we love March Madness. Those 12-5s have been going on for a long, long time. And given the fact that Will Wade and don't like Lids heading to NC State, it's got NC State fans fired up. But a disappointing end to a Clemson season, which was really good. And, again, I'll emphasize again, the league was as down as I've ever seen it. And I've been around here for a long, long time. Duke's elite, Clemson and Louisville were really good teams. I didn't think Carolina was going to get in the dance. They did, and they made the most of it in the first four. We'll see what they do this afternoon against Ole Miss. But at the end of the day, it was a nice year for Clemson. But, boy, it leaves a sour taste in your mouth when you just get completely outplayed and outworked on the big stage.
Why do you think the league is a little down this year? Because I always feel like the people say that, oh, ACC is not what it used to be. And then we fast forward to the Elite Eight, and there's 3 ACC teams. Like, why do you think the league, maybe top to bottom, is not quite as good as it's been in the past?
Greg, it's simple. You guys are down there in the great state of Alabama. You got a guy in Nick Saban, multiply that by about 7 or 8. Because that's basically what has happened to ACC basketball. When you start thinking about not only great coaches you've lost, but Hall of Fame coaches that you've lost. When the Coach K's and the Roy Williams and the Tony Bennett's and the Jim Boeheims, Jim Larinaga, Mike Bray, I mean, I go down the list here. You're going to have a trickle-down effect that, hey, you just don't have the next guy that comes in and says, yeah, things are great. You guys are used to winning 30. I'm going to win 30. So the league is going through a major transition with Hall of Fame coaches into what is the next page. So, again, Hubert Davis has had his ups and downs at Carolina, replacing Roy Williams. John Shire has a terrific team with Cooper Flagg. But when you look around, I mean, Syracuse is not the same. Pat Kelsey did a great job at Louisville this particular year. After the last couple of years, they've been a complete doormat. So, Leonard Hamilton had a great run at Florida State. We'll see what happens there. Jim Larinaga was in the Final Four 2 years ago. Kevin Keats is now out. They were in the Final Four a year ago. So I think it's a combination of all that. And let's honestly give props to the SEC. I mean, for the last 10 years, Sankey's done a brilliant job when he got with Trangiski and said, hey, listen, we want to get better in hoops. How do you do that? You get great coaches. You make a commitment. You put in the facilities. You go out and acquire talent, and obviously the rules have changed drastically in the last couple of years. So in some respects, from an ACC perspective, it's been a perfect storm of getting caught in the middle. So it'll correct itself from our league's perspective. It'll get better the next couple of years. But this year, with the exception of Duke, Clemson, Louisville, and at times Carolina, the rest of the league was just way, 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 way down. And it showed in the regular season. I think you've already seen it after about a day and a half of March Madness.
Mark Packer joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline with the ACC Network. Let's talk about some of the teams that are left. A lot of folks have confidence that Duke is poised to make a deep run. There are injury concerns, though, and not just Cooper Flagg. Malik Brown, one that I'm not sure why, Pack, not a lot of people are discussing, but where do you feel like Duke stands from a health perspective, and should it change people's opinion on what they're capable of?
Well, they're certainly, listen, they flexed a little bit in the ACC tournament when they lost both Cooper Flagg and Malik Brown. But I'm with you on Malik Brown. He's a great defensive presence. Not that he needs to score a lot offensively, but he did make some big threes when they beat Carolina and Chapel Hill. They're in all likelihood they're not going to get him back. The shoulder's the problem, but Cooper Flagg sounds like he's good to go. I think the upside for Duke is that they're good enough to win the national championship. The downside is, hey, you know what? You can also have one of them days, right? And we kind of saw that a little bit yesterday with both Clemson and Missouri, that, sometimes you just get outworked, get outplayed. Other guy plays well. So I think the upside for Duke is a Final Four and a national championship. If Cooper Flagg's good to go, and it sounds like he is, they will be a tough out. They're long, they're athletic, they play great defense, and they seem to be poised for a run. So I think that the only team in the ACC that I would have told you even before this thing started that had a chance to get to the Final Four was Duke, and I still believe that.
Certainly looking that way, and Duke's amazing. So all it takes is one. They cut down the nets. No one will be saying anything about the ACC. I do want to ask you about the tournament. I want to stay in the tournament. But before we do, I just am amazed by this Will Wade situation. The fact that he's been able to resurrect his career. He basically told his team that he was leaving. He's just coached them to a win over a team in the ACC that he'll be playing against regularly in Clemson. And he's now set to take whenever this season ends, whenever this run ends, he's going to take the NC State job. How did this happen? I mean, NC State made the tournament, made the Final Four last year. Kevin Keatts now out. Will Wade is in. How the heck did this go down?
Well, you know what, Greg? Just think about NC State a second. This time last year, we had just gotten back from Washington, D.C., and that's where the ACC tournament was, where NC State was dead in the water. They win 5 games in 5 days. Nobody saw it coming. They win the ACC championship. They cut down the nets. Lo and behold, 3 weeks later, they're in the Final Four. We fast forward the clock 11 months, really 12 months. Kevin Keatts is out of a job. I mean, that's the world that we live in college athletics. And, you think about Will Wade and where he was with LSU and the issues that they had, and he was basically kicked to the curb. Think about a guy like Rick Pitino. I mean, same kind of deal, right? I mean, a couple of years ago, he's in Greece for crying out loud coaching, and now he's got St. John's as a 2 seed that's certainly dangerous enough. Now he's the Big East champ, but also can get to a Final Four. So it's the storylines that make us in the business that we're in kind of go, man, what a great storyline. Again, every day you wake up, you think, just give me a great story to talk about. Will Wade is certainly one of them. Rick Pitino is one of them. You see these reclamation projects happen all the time where you go, where in the world is this coming? It happens to players all the time, right? You think a guy's dead in the water, got no game. Next thing you know, finds the right landing spot. I think Will Wade has had great success everywhere he's been. I think he'll be really good at NC State. But I thought the way his kids played and competed yesterday, the coaching was great, but, man, the want-to from that team yesterday, they were just simply hungrier and got after Clemson's rear end from the get-go.
Mark Packer joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. And speaking of storylines, an ACC-SEC matchup today at 3:05 on TNT. North Carolina, Ole Miss, which, Pack, is a totally different discussion now than it was Sunday around 7 p.m. when everyone was up in arms at the heels we're in. Then all of a sudden, you mentioned Duke flexing in the ACC tournament. UNC flexes in the first 4, big time. I don't know if they can replicate from behind the three-point line anything close to what they did in that game, but what do you anticipate from North Carolina moving forward?
Well, this is the problem with Carolina, right? And for the record, I didn't think their resume was going to get them in the tournament, but they got in, all right? And everybody lost their minds for 48 hours, and Carolina went out and went bonkers against San Diego State and the Mountain West Conference and all that stuff. If they shoot like they did the other night, Ole Miss is in trouble. But here's the problem with Carolina. They have been Jekyll and Hyde, not necessarily from game to game. They've been Jekyll and Hyde at times from half to half. All you got to do is look at a game like earlier this year when they played Florida. And, of course, we know how good the Gators are. But even back when they played in December, Florida runs them out of the gym. Next thing you know, second half, Carolina plays lights out and has the Gators on the ropes. The North Carolina Duke ACC tournament game. I mean, they're down 20-something in the first half. Next thing you know, they're shooting free throws to take the lead with 4 seconds to go. They are a weird team. But when they're on, they're a problem. And the thing today, and again, I love Chris Beard as a coach, and Ole Miss has had a really good team, and they've had some signature wins. But it's all about matchups. And North Carolina's guards are small. So is Ole Miss. North Carolina's actually got a size advantage inside. So that's going to have to be something that Chris Beard's got to deal with. But if they shoot the ball well, they're a problem. But that's true for everybody. So I don't expect them to go lights out like they did Tuesday night. But this is a game I think most North Carolina fans are thinking, hey, you know what? The bracket's kind of opened up for us. I mean, not only does the Ole Miss, from a matchup standpoint, look like it works well, but then potentially got Iowa State, and they could be going out on their star player. So again, it's the beauty of the tournament. You never know how any of this stuff's going to play out. The SEC has completely, totally dominated the ACC in the regular season. But March, you know what? It's a whole set of new rules, and we'll see how it plays out this afternoon.
And finally, Pac, when you look at the future of the ACC, more big picture as opposed to the tournament, this whole brand initiative where you're now rewarding brands like Clemson, like Florida State, things feel like they're settled. The buyout will decrease to $75 million over the next 5 years. I mean, seems like things are calm right now, which I think is a good thing. Yeah. But it also, I'm not sure it's going to work out great 5 years from now because the exit fee is lower and now these teams are strapped with additional cash. How do you think this is going to kind of play out in the near term and the long term?
Greg, you and I are on the same page. I think this, from a stability standpoint, that dark cloud, which has been floating around the league for the last couple of years, given the lawsuits with Florida State and Clemson and, of course, some others behind the scenes, has been an issue. But I think Jim Phillips figured it out for the short term. And short term means the next 4 to 5 years. But I think we all in this crazy business understand that there's another giant tidal wave coming in 4 or 5 years when it's time to start renegotiating new TV deals. And I'm with you. I think that 5 years from now, when we look back at conversations we're having in 2024 and 2025, we'll laugh and go, man, what were we thinking about? And I just think about, like, if we had had the same conversation back in 2018 and 2019 and said, hey, what do you think college sports is going to look like by the year 2023, 24? None of us would have had any clue about NIL and, COVID and how's that going to affect it and where's everybody going? Here comes Oklahoma and Texas. What happened to USC, UCLA, Washington? I mean, it's just a whole different universe. So I suspect that we'll have another wave 4 or 5 years down the road. But in the short term, the ACC does get some stability. Everybody kind of understands the deal. The fact that Jim Phillips was able to negotiate a contract with other schools that were basically now going to take less money, it kind of reminds me of the old Big 12 days when Oklahoma and Texas in particular were like, hey, it's time for a power play, and we saw how that worked out. So I suspect that, God willing, if we're still around in 2030, 2031, that the landscape of college sports as we know it will be completely upside down again. That'd be my guess.
Pat, great stuff, man. Thanks for hopping on with us. We really appreciate it, and hopefully we can do it again soon.
Anytime, gentlemen. Keep up the great work.
Yes, sir. There you go. Mark Packer of the ACC Network joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services. It'll be a tough task for UNC today. Ole Miss, 305 on TNT. Ole Miss coming in as the 6th seed. We've seen what that team can do in Southeastern Conference play, Greg. It's hard for me to imagine North Carolina going out again and being as good as they were from behind the three-point line, specifically one guy, and R.J. Davis, who was 6 for 6 from behind the three-point line. But if they are even close to that from behind the perimeter, they're going to be a problem. And they've got to have a new confidence. With everybody telling them they shouldn't have been there, they obviously came in, played the way they needed to, and deserve to be where they are now based on being placed in the first 4. But are they going to look that way against Ole Miss?
I really think that they are going to play well. I just feel like sometimes when you're that last team in, maybe you just have a little bit of a new lease on life. Like, man, we got nothing to lose. Like, we shouldn't even be here. Sometimes that can kind of propel you to playing really well. I'd be shocked if they didn't play well. I think Ole Miss can win, but I would absolutely be shocked if they don't play extremely well.
Okay. It's going to be interesting as all these teams continue to push for a ring, winning a national championship. If there's a ring that you want, though, you should probably head down to Bromberg's.
Yeah, Bromberg's is amazing, and I've been going there for years and years and years. I've always been so grateful and appreciative of the experience that I have when I walk through the door at Bromberg's. You'll go check him out in Mountain Brook Village or at the Summit. They have that unique, one-of-a-kind piece that is timeless. They have gemstones. They have natural diamonds. They have luxuries like you wouldn't believe. And these are things that are going to be in your family for decades, generations, you name it. Don't go and take shortcuts. Go and get it from a trusted brand like Bromberg's. They've been serving this community for 200 years. It's really amazing. So go and check them out in Mountain Brook Village and at the Summit, but you can also check them out online at brombergs.com.
All right, when we come back, updates on Georgia as far as spring football is concerned, some players who may not be with the team the rest of the way, and some updates from Alabama spring practice to the dismay of some with SEC representation and local representation in the NCAA tournament. The quarterback battle at Alabama heating up, apparently. We'll discuss it right after this on Mac and Cube in the morning. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, Friday, March 31st, 8:39. Jocks 94.5. Listen online, jocksfm.com. You can watch live on YouTube each and every morning. Search Jocks 94.5. Some more trouble in Athens, GMAC, as wide receiver Nitro Tuggle arrested on charges of reckless driving and speeding in Athens.
Bad news.
Also, offensive lineman Marquez Easley apparently crashed into his vehicle into a home overnight.
Did you see the picture?
I did.
It wasn't like the home was like right there. You know, it wasn't like it didn't see the stop sign. It'd almost be difficult to crash into the home at that angle.
Well, it's he found his way to the home with his vehicle.
Is that his house?
I'm going to guess no. if that's what he was in trouble for, is crashing into that particular home. They have both been suspended indefinitely. It doesn't feel like Kirby Smart wasting any time on this one, which is not surprising. Unfortunate that you had these with the other recent driving-related instances that they have had. Do you make any more of it? Is it related? How do you? I mean, Kirby's come out and said the things that he's done to try to manage this. He's talked to his team. He's had people come speak to him. I mean, now he suspended guys. You've talked about trying to take the vehicles before, which I just don't think that that's real.
How about don't give him chargers?
I do think that if you wanted your collective to maybe have a conversation, but yeah.
You get a minivan that is not sweet.
What if some of them are going out there and buying these, though? I mean,
well, go ahead. You want to buy it on your own accord? That's yours. It's your prerogative. Here's the thing. People want to say, kick them off the team. Right? That's what a lot of people say here. And that's what, let me tell you what makes that challenging. Answer me this. You get kicked off of Georgia's football team. Is that potentially, key word there, is that potentially a lifelong sentence?
Yes.
Yes, correct. So you're telling me a reckless driving incident could carry, in some cases, if the kids are 20 years old, a 60-year sentence? But they never play football again. Is that that's why I've always said, man, these kids need to be rehabilitated within the confines of the football program. If any of us got a speeding ticket, let's say John Saber gets a speeding ticket today driving home because he wanted to watch the first game at 11, and he's going 100 in a 45. Like, that's dangerous, right? Really bad. You deserve a ticket. It should be expensive. It should be hefty. But he shouldn't be fired from Cumulus and then made a pariah because he had a speeding ticket. It should not carry a lifelong sentence. So I've always been, I think the normal fan is always like, oh, kick him off the team. Yeah, well, you know what? I, for one, have never thought that a slight misdemeanor should warrant your career coming to an end and potentially your future being jeopardized.
I would agree with you. It's something that Coach Saban harped on a lot when he was at Alabama is, where do you think this kid is better off? You think he's better off us telling him to go home? Or is he better off with us being disciplined here and trying to work his way back in, learning how to make up for mistakes and try to overcome some adversity? And I think all of us deep down inside know what the right answer is there. It's just certain people want different things. Certain people want other programs to suffer to the benefit of theirs. And certain people look at it and there's some jealousy involved some of the times when people reference these situations and discuss these situations. It's just kind of the reality of it. But it feels like Kirby is acting in a more swift manner this time around. So we'll see exactly what that means moving forward. But like I said, I think it's just unfortunate that not even so much from the program's perspective, but the kids who have seen lives be lost because of similar instances, and it's continuing to happen that close to home.
It's insane.
It's disappointing to me.
It's honestly insane. I don't understand how it continues to happen. I don't get it. I know that there's like this. I understand that as a young kid, you have this type of nothing will happen to me, I'm invincible type of mentality, but it's just dumb. Like, guys in the program have lost their life. People in the program have lost their lives. What more do you need? But then again, I mean, we see dumb things all the time.
Sure. Shouldn't need much more than that. If you need a new home, it's Gusty Goulas in the Gusty Goulas Group. 205-542-1996. Google Gusty Goulas Group. You're going to see over 835-star Google reviews. That's because the Gusty Goulas Group, brokered by eXp Realty, has served more than 3,000 home buyers and sellers in the greater Birmingham area. Recognized both nationally and locally as Greater Birmingham, Alabama's #1 team in homes sold, the Gusty Goulas Group here to help you. Just go to GustyGoulasGroup.com right now. Top of the page on your phone, you'll see a button. You can smash that, find out your home's price with very little information. You'll see what Gusty can possibly do for you. Call 205-542-1996 or go to GustyGoulasGroup.com today and start packing. When we come back, is Alabama's quarterback battle closer than some people believe? We'll discuss it right after this on Mac and Cube in the morning. 8:48, Friday, March 21st. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Tweet in at Mac and Cube. You want to get in? Discuss historic SEC participation, historic representation in the local market of March Madness. But now we're going to move over to spring football again. There are multiple reports coming from multiple different people who cover Alabama, cover college football, Greg, that there is real ground being made up by Austin Mack in the quarterback battle. And what he is doing through spring football is turning heads, grabbing attention, and now maybe a real player in the quarterback race to be number one. What are your thoughts?
Nothing super surprising. A talented guy. The staff liked his upside from the beginning. If you listen to how they talked about him when he decided to transfer alongside them from Washington to Alabama, they talked about how young he was. That was the first thing. I mean, the guy's like 19 years old still and is a third-year player. He wasn't one of those guys that was held back and is, 25 years old as a junior. There's a handful of guys like that, so they feel like his upside is tremendous. He's got length. He's not quite as mobile as the other two options at the moment, but here's my interpretation of what's going on. I think they're trying to light a bit of a fire under Ty Simpson. I also think at this point, the more you talk openly about the candidates for the starting job, the more likely you are to retain all three candidates, knowing that there is still a transfer portal window that opens between now and when the season kicks off. So I don't know. That's why I've had a hard time, because I hear these guys. I've talked to coaches the last probably 3 weeks or so, and all of a sudden, like, there's random names that are being, hey, this guy's having a nice camp. And I look at it and I'm like, oh, they have 3 scholarship guys at that position. Makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, so I think you got to be a little careful taking what the coaches say right now as the word of God. I don't think that's the right approach, because some of it is roster management. But from what I hear, he has impressed with his command and his accuracy, especially on the downfield throws, because we know the downfield throws are a huge part of this system, and that is where he excels as a long 6'6" quarterback.
What do you think about his game would give him larger advantages of going out and winning this job? Like, where would he physically, mentally, emotionally have the edge? We know he's been around some of these coaches on this side of the ball for a little bit longer, but what else about what he brings to the table would lead you to believe that he could go take this job?
I think it's big arm. I think he can get the ball up and down. I mean, you look at when this offense has been at its best, and granted that was with Michael Penix a couple of years ago, and they had a ridiculous quartet of wide receivers. That offense was predicated on big plays, and they averaged like 11 yards an attempt. It's absurd. Now, the completion percentage is not ridiculous. I think it was like 64%, but they don't care about completion percentage in this offense. It's about chunk yardage. That's at its best. Granted, they can adjust and adapt and change and do a lot of different things to attack whatever the defense is giving them. But I think there's a lot of reason for optimism with his length at 6'6" is naturally, because of that long lever, is always going to be easier to get the ball up and down.
Yeah.
Like it's now might be a little bit slower with the release.
When you say up and down, describe to people exactly what you mean.
So you can turn the ball over. Like, the longer your levers are, the more likely you are to be able to do special things with the ball. So you look at the guys with the biggest arms, they usually have the longest arms. I mean, granted, there's some guys that are just twitchy and explosive. Like Aaron Rodgers, not a long guy whatsoever. He's just twitchy and explosive. Tom Brady is outrageously long. His arms are he can scratch his kneecap standing straight up. The guy just is long. Peyton Manning, similar thing, but he was a little more compact with his release. With a little bit longer lever, you can turn the ball over. The nose of the football, when you watch talented throwers, the nose of the football on its descent is on its way down. Now, every D1 quarterback should be able to do that. I mean,
why does that matter, though?
You can just be more accurate with football.
So it doesn't float.
The
wind can't hit it as much.
The wind won't touch it at all. It's going to end up where it needs to end up. Turning the ball over.
Is it a more catchable ball also?
Not necessarily. It's just more accurate. I don't know. Like, I know my skill set, I was good at turning the ball over. I did not have a huge arm, but I could turn it over. I just could get the nose down. But I've seen guys with huge arms that can't turn it over for whatever reason. I don't know why. It's just the way their release works and the way the ball turns over and the way it's nose down. But I was taught at a young age, like, hey, you got to get the nose down. You got to get the nose down. So at 12, I'm working on trying to get the nose down. And he, based on some of the throws that I've seen him make, and I haven't seen him throw a ridiculous amount of passes in practice, but I did see him as a freshman at Washington. Saw him at times last year in practice, went to a couple practices, was running the scout team, but he can throw a nice ball. I mean, it's a nice ball, catchable ball. He didn't play with a lot of urgency. The speed, the how quick and fast you had to play wasn't there. So maybe that light has now gone on. And if it has, then look out, because he's got a lot of arm talent, obviously.
Why can't guys, we're talking Austin Mack and Alabama quarterback battle in the spring, why can't certain guys turn it over?
Small hands.
Like you said, sometimes it might be their release.
Yeah.
Is it not quick enough?
There's different variations of release. Like you have U guys, where they basically throw under the ball.
C
where
grip.
when you look at your hand, it's a U. C grip is going to be more inclined to turn the ball over. I think just with how it comes off your hand, like if it comes off your index finger and it's a gap, pretty significant gap between your index finger and the middle finger, that can have an impact.
Is how tightly you grip the ball impacted?
Well, I would hope that you're not gripping it too tight. If you're gripping it tight, we got problems.
I just feel like you see certain guys that are, especially some younger guys, that just feels like they're squeezing the expletive out of the ball all the time.
Well, those young guys won't be playing quarterback in a few years. But if you're gripping it and choking the life out of the ball, you can't be accurate. It's no different than a golf swing. If you're choking the club, you got no shot. If you're throwing a bowling ball and you're gripping it tight, you got no shot. It's got to have a little feel, got a little nuance. If you're doing a pool cue and you're gripping it super tight, you can't hit the pool ball as firm or as solid. You're going to hit some off shots. So I do think that's something that needs to be addressed. But I think his long lever is what makes him very intriguing. The problem is he's not going to be a guy that is able to live with quick twitch. You know who had the longest lever of all time? Jake Coker.
Dan McGuire.
No, if you watch Jake Coker, like
Randall Cunningham.
Jake Coker had the longest release. Everything was in slow motion, but it worked because it was married up off of play action. Like Jake Coker didn't have a chance to play in the NFL because it wasn't twitchy enough. His arm was not big enough to go along with how long his release was. Like usually the longer your release, the bigger your arm. If you have a long release, you better have a big arm. Well, if you have a long release and not a big arm, you're dead. So I think that you can be long, but you better have a big arm to complete that. And the offense has to kind of be designed to be slower maneuvering. Jake Coker did great because the offense was designed around long form play action and downfield throws. If that's where this offense ends up molding into, they'll be in great shape because that's what Austin Mack might be able to excel at. I think his skill set's pretty similar to that of a Jake Coker. I just don't know if he runs around as well. We'll see. I don't know the answer to that.
What would the scheme maybe have to do with either Austin Mack or Ty Simpson winning this quarterback job? How much of it can it be altered, changed, maybe moved around the different strengths that the two may bring? We'll discuss that as well as a little bit more from Alabama spring practice on the other side. Get you some updates from other spring camps happening around the SEC and some SEC coaching additions. All that and more next on Mac and Cube in the morning. Friday, March 21st, 9 a.m., hour number 3 underway, Mac and Cube, 800-239-9569. What do you want to see from Alabama today? What are you expecting to see from the Crimson Tide in the NCAA tournament? How does your bracket look? Which we haven't really discussed here on the show, to be honest with you. Before we move back into that, Greg, Seth Palmer tweeting into the show. At Mac and Cube, you can always tweet in, be a part, listen online, jocksfm.com, watch the show live on YouTube every morning. The people need Greg to speak on Phillip Rivers' levers and release.
It's wild. You know why he throws like that, right? Everyone knows why he throws like that.
We would reference that as a unicorn.
Yes,
Seth.
As the anomaly. There's also like people, they're like, oh, well, he's 5'10".
Excuse me?
Like his height. Like the guy's 5'10". Like he can play quarterback in the league.
Phillip
Look,
Rivers
Drew Brees.
is huge.
No, I'm just saying like the anomalies. See, Drew Brees did it. Russell Wilson did it. Yeah, they're like the only two ever. There's not a 5'10" quarterback. Like Kyle Murray's doing it. Yeah, but it's, there's not many of those guys, right? There's very few. Kyler Murray does it because he's super athletic. Phillip Rivers is massive. And the reason why he throws that way, does everyone know? Is everyone familiar with why he throws that way?
I don't think I know this story. No.
Okay, well, when he was a young kid, his dad, I believe, coached high school football. He would go to practice, and at that time, at 5, 6, 7 years old, he could not grip the football. So he had to essentially shot put the football.
Yeah.
And that's how he learned how to throw. So fast forward several years, they never taught him how to throw properly because he didn't need to. He was 6'6". If Phillip Rivers was 6'1", it would likely not have had the success that he had because that 6'1" becomes 5'9" with his release point. Well, at 6'6", it comes 6'2" at his release point. It's fine. So he's definitely a unicorn. When I teach my kids how to throw a football, I will not teach them to throw like Phillip Rivers. I will try to teach them a more traditional route. But if it works, it works. But yeah, the likelihood of becoming a super elite player throwing it like that is extremely small. We've never seen one like it. Phillip Rivers is just outrageously special.
There are guys that have had funky releases that have worked for a long time. You go back, not just in NFL, but in college, like Werfel had that shot put release a little bit. You look at guys like Kozar Marino in the NFL, it was a lot lower. So it doesn't have to be traditional.
Marino was more like
se.
darts. It was so quick.
It was the quickest ever.
I mean,
not even close.
No one was as quick as Marino. Like Romo was quick, but low.
He didn't have anywhere near the
sidearm.
Velocity Marino did.
Nowhere near the velocity. I mean, he was just a baller. He just anticipated and
Cunningham a little before your time, but you should look up some Randall Cunningham highlights. He had that thing came down below his waist when he took the football back. It was like he was pitching, literally.
Some of those old school releases are just disgusting.
Wow.
They are. Like when
sorry that Stabler was out on his jet ski instead of going to his private quarterback coach every day like y'all were.
No, I'm talking about like the private quarterback coach.
All those guys didn't have their they didn't fly to California in the offseason to work with George Whitfield and jump through hula hoops in the sand.
I look at some of the technique and fundamentals of the modern day quarterback, and it's not great either. So if they're spending a lot of money and if you're a runaround guy though, you can buy time and stuff like that. That's pretty dang helpful. But fundamentally speaking, there are flaws with a lot of guys' releases. And that's what we all had flaws. I mean, with a release standpoint, but you just have to know as an offensive coordinator, all right, my quarterback is going to be best suited with slower develop. He's not super twitchy. He's got a long lever. I have to be able to kind of slow things down and allow our routes to develop maybe a little slower than they would if he was a quick twitch guy.
Right.
Which is fine. It's not a problem. It's just something, it's really more on the coaches than it is on the players.
So let's go into that aspect of this quarterback battle that we have been referencing, and that is Ty Simpson. And if Austin Mack really is making up ground and he has a chance to potentially go win this job, what can this offense be one way or the other to tailor to what you have told us about Austin Mack and his delivery, and then what Ty Simpson brings with his delivery, or the difference in movement or the difference in styles? Because you've kind of said Austin Mack may work into more of a deeper play action mode. Ty Simpson may give you some of the quicker throws that could be a little bit more accurate. Where does the offense work with what either of these guys might be better or worse at than the other when competing for Alabama's starting quarterback job.
You know, it's anybody's guess because I do think the skill sets are all a little bit different. Not crazy different, not like Milroe and then the other three, but a little bit different. Keon Keeley can run, but he's not a guy that's going to like kill you with his legs. He wants to be a thrower. He wants to be in the pocket. Austin Mack, similar deal. Ty Simpson showcase. I think traditionally I would have said, yeah, he's more of a pocket guy, but I think he's showcased over the last couple of years more of a willingness to be athletic at the position, and utilize quarterback run if necessary. It's just helpful for the offense if the quarterback is willing and able to run the football. So that I think is something that is worth noting. But a couple questions I have here. One, is the offense going to be more big play? Or is it going to be more off efficiency? Two, will quarterback run be utilized? Those are really the two things, because I know what the offense looked like at Fresno. I know what the offense looked like at Washington. I know what the offense looked like early time at Indiana. I know what the offense looked like last year in Tuscaloosa. It's been a little bit different at every single stop. Will it be more Fresno? I happen to think that's where it's going to go. If you look at Fresno a couple years back, they could run the ball. It was hard on play action. They did a great job of utilizing short and intermediate throws to create efficiencies. But if it's Austin Mack, I could see it maybe being a little bit more big play oriented, more Washington-esque. Of course, not with the wide receivers that Washington had, but
well, one thing Penix really brought too was, I mean, he had that quick release, like he could get the ball out, and he can
get the ball up
really accurate too.
He had the longest fingers and the longest arms for a guy that was not outrageously tall. It was absurd. I mean, he just could really turn the ball over and really flick the football. He was super special throwing it.
Yeah, it looked effortless when he would throw the foot, and he put a lot of velocity on it. And it's like, man, it didn't feel like he reared back to throw that ball.
He was amazing
to get it out there. So we have seen. I'm trying to remember the kid at Fresno's name that was the back in the years that you're talking. Ronnie Rivers. Ronnie Rivers was the running back, and he was just a hammer, like a freaking hammer. He would just get downhill.
And Jake Haener was a quarterback.
And then let's go back to that Washington offense 2 years ago. What did they turn into later in the year? Who really came on later in the year for that offense?
Dylan Johnson,
the hammer, getting downhill.
Starting early November, he was getting crazy carries. I think he went for like 10 a carry. Had like 18 carries for 180 against SC, remember? Or no, he had for like 250 against SC.
Yeah.
It's like some ridiculous numbers. But yeah, he went for over 100 a couple times, and he was by himself, and they had no one else. I think this is a super physical offense that wants a very physical back that's going to get downhill. That's why I think they let Justin Haynes walk, because I don't think he was a guy that's going to grind for the tough yardage. I think Richard Young fits this offense better than even Justice Haynes.
Yeah, he went for 256 and 4 touchdowns against USC, and then went for 152 against Oregon in the championship game.
Yeah, and I would anticipate it being a real physical rushing attack next year. Jam's a little bit more dance, but I think the kid they got from Louisiana,
he's downhill guy.
And Richard Young, they want to hurt you. They want to run through you. And I think that's a benefit, and that will kind of help establish. You have a super physical back, your offensive line is going to become more physical. Just out of
it's by osmosis essentially. And when your back is pounding people, you don't have a choice. You got to go out there and be more physical, stay on your blocks longer, finish blocks more. It's just an attitude that comes with it. And I think people discount sometimes, Greg, how much the back can impact that. I mean, listen, it's not, Rudy Johnson wasn't just the only reason we got good at running the football going into my junior year. You know, we had a new scheme, a new system that helped too, but like Rudy made us want to grind more. Like he made us want to finish blocks, stay on double teams longer, like get them more push at the line of scrimmage, because you know what they're capable of. So if they get a little bit more from you, let's say they're capable on a certain play of getting 4 or 5 yards. Well, if they get a little more from you, all of a sudden that capability turns into 10, 12 yards. You understand that. I mean, and it's not really talked about. It's not something that you sit there and say, but like we knew there was a difference when Fred Beasley got the ball or Markeith Cooper got the ball. We knew that there was a different capability of running inside zone, or it was ISO back then. But if we were running ISO in the A gap, we knew that there was a different capability of certain backs. And if you have a consistent back that can do those things with a little bit more physicality in nature, it makes you want to be that way. It makes you want to play that way.
As it should be.
There's an absolute carryover effect.
I think there's 100% a carryover effect. Like I believe it. I don't know if it's necessarily like I prefer a little bit more of a versatile back. It's my preference because I'm a quarterback. I like guys that can do something in the passing game. I like guys that can go and create. I like Christian McCaffrey. Like if you can give me any back right now in the NFL, or really for the last 5-10 years, I'd probably take Christian McCaffrey. Some people like Derrick Henry. I think Derrick Henry is phenomenal, a great player. But as far as the offense, it needs to kind of be set up to allow Derrick Henry to get his. You know what I mean? So there's very different backs, both uber successful, both future Hall of Famers, but very different styles and both very effective. So I think I like the versatility of being able to create the matchup, but some people just want to pound you. People think that Derrick Henry, who's the guy that, the coach at Tennessee when Derrick Henry was there?
Lane Kiffin?
No, not Tennessee Volunteers.
Derek Dooley.
No, Tennessee Titans.
Oh, Mike Vrabel?
Vrabel. Was Tennessee super physical running the football because of Vrabel's identity?
I don't think we really knew what his identity was going to be at that point, but no, it was because you had
Derrick Henry's going to freaking pound you. That's why. So I think that's what Alabama's offense wants to be. Will it become that? I don't know. We'll see. I kind of think that's where this staff wants it to go. They want to pound you. They love their starting 11 on defense. I think they're a little concerned about their depth on defense in a few spots, but feel like year-over-year growth on that side of the ball is going to be exponential. Now it's about the identity offensively, and you're going to have a guy that's going to hit the hole this year as opposed to last year because the guy hit the hole about 1/3 of the time.
Yeah.
So feel good about it.
Well, it's going to be a fun watch, just kind of who wins a couple of these position battles. As you stated, there are a couple of different backs. Doesn't feel like we have a strong lean on who has the edge to be able to take that right now, but a couple that could give you different things in different ways. And then two, which quarterback is in, and then if that sort of helps mold the offense in a bit of a different direction. We don't know exactly how that's going to go for Alabama's offense either. But one that I know we're going to watch, and I think on the perimeter, you feel better about where things are. And that gives you advantages offensively of maybe what you want to be or don't want to be with Bama's wide receivers that they're going to have options with this year.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Bama's wideouts this year. I think Germ's going to be exactly where he needs to be. I think you have very prototypical positions this year. Horton's your X, Ryan Williams your Z, Germ's your slot. Call it a day. The one area that I would like to see continued growth in is tight end. And you don't need a guy that's going to go out and have 750 yards and 11 touchdowns at tight end. Like, no, you don't need that. I just need a guy that's going to maybe have 300 or 400 yards, just to kind of keep you honest underneath on some check downs and some get outs. Like I'm good with the receiver production. I think the receiver room, I hate saying this because people will take it as a slight to the previous guy. I thought K-Law was a great dude. I think these are good kids. They were. They are just not game changers. They're not. Right. I'm not saying Horton is, but at least he has an obvious role. I don't like the skinny, slight wide receivers that are versatile. I like the guys that have specific roles. I like knowing that I have the 6'4", 210-pound X that's going to require press coverage and a safety over the top. Like, I love having that. I love knowing I got a speedster at Z that can take the top off the defense at any point in the game. If I decide to send Deshaun Jackson deep, he's gone. Like, you're not staying on top of him. That's Ryan Williams. And then I like the super versatile football player that can do a million different things for me in the slot. That's Jerm Bernard. Like, I love where this offense is evolving to this year. Now it's about, will the guys hit their ceiling? That's a big key. They have the job. Now it's about reaching their potential. And I feel like they can do it.
Yes. It's going to be interesting to watch because there are a lot of reasons that you could look at this Alabama offense and say, I feel great about it. Or there are reasons that some of the expectations should be further down the road than maybe some other people have. And there are obviously a couple of concerns that we just don't know what they're going to look like and don't know how it's going to go. But we'll play it out through spring and we'll see there. exactly what it looks like. As we move through spring practice around the SEC, if you're looking to move to a different location or just need a piece of furniture moved in your home, Greg, who should you call?
It'd be Crocker Moving Services, a local company owned by an Iraq War veteran, Eric Crocker. Crocker believes in hiring movers you can trust, complete full background checks, and run drug tests on every single employee. These are good guys, and you can trust them in your home. They did your whole home packed up move. Your company headquarters moved to cross country, or you just come rearrange your living room. These guys got you covered. They also do deliveries for furniture that you've purchased. You need to get to your homes. Call or visit them online today for a free quote. The website is crockermovingservices.com. It's crockermovingservices.com. Support your veterans by choosing Crocker Moving Services for your next move.
All right, when we come back, continue talking a little bit of spring ball, and then we go back to the NCAA tournament. How are your brackets looking now? Give us your feedback, 800-239-9569. Tweet in at Mac and Cube. We'll let you know the same from us next on Jocks 94.5. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, Friday, March 21st, 9:19. What does your bracket look like? We'll take your calls there, 800-239-9569. Tweet into the show as well, at Mac and Cube. An interesting question coming into the show that I want to get to in just a moment regarding maybe alternate careers for either Greg or myself. We'll get to that in just a moment. You guys spend precious time working on your brackets, gathering information about the tournament favorites, taking chances on Cinderellas. You feel so good about your picks, and then wham, 15 seed shocks the world. Don't lose sleep over it. I know I won't. It's because my royal betting mattress is not going to let me, no matter who wins, who loses, what kind of day I have. I know I'll sleep like a baby every night. And that's all because my American-made, Alabama-made mattress from Royal Bedding, handcrafted double-sided mattress sets made right here in Pelham, Alabama. My friends Tom, Ginger, TJ Vignell at Royal Bedding right there on Highway 31 near the big U-Haul store. I can speak from personal experience from having a guy who travels a lot, sleeps in a lot of hotel beds across the country. Nothing stacks up to my Royal Bedding mattress. Do your back a big favor. Before you buy a mattress, visit Royal Bedding. A couple tweets into the show. First on brackets. How is yours after day one, Greg?
I have 2 losses. I thought it was 1 earlier. I have 2.
Did you lose any games into the next round? Like, did you have those teams going further?
Yes.
That didn't make it?
Yes,
Okay, so
I had Clemson going further.
Yep.
Other than that, good shape.
I had 2 losses yesterday as well, tied with my 7-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
So our house lead currently belongs to my wife, who the only game she lost was Clemson yesterday.
Nah.
She did have Clemson advancing another round, however. So that hurts a little bit. I had one team going to the next round. My son, 7-year-old, he lost 2 games and did not have a team out in the next round. So he could be good to go in the next round.
Think he's golden?
I think he's good. Trust me, she was hearing about it this morning. I wrote the scores down, and he's going to be running his mouth. I know.
Love that.
But 4-year-old had a rough day. Rough day.
It's tough on the 4-year-old.
Yeah. 9-year-old daughter, not a great day, but 4-year-old, I bet he's grumpy today.
You think?
When she told him that he's in last place, he's not going to. That doesn't go over well.
That's dicey.
John,
never good.
Your bracket?
Currently sitting at 14-2 with those 14 teams still alive.
There you go.
For the second round.
Zach Manning tweets in, on day one, I only missed one game. That was Utah State versus UCLA. That was one that I missed also. That was one of my upsets. And goodness gracious, that went the other way. Never had a day one that looked good. I imagine my bracket will blow up today. It's usually the way it goes. I've had a couple of like really good first days, and then the next like Friday is just rough.
You rest back to that mean.
You're feeling so good about it. You're like, this is it. This is what I'm going to I'm in contention. We're going to do good. And then
this is our year.
You lose 2 Final Four teams.
Yeah, I lost UC San Diego, which hurt, and Clemson.
That was a good upset pick, though.
Yeah, I felt good about it. That was
one I really thought about taking.
I felt good about it. They covered.
The over 500 brackets and our perfect bracket competition, 3 is still perfect.
3?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, the March Madness account yesterday was like 20-something out of however many million. Still perfect. So, yeah, it doesn't happen a lot, especially with today, how these things are going. I mean, it's rough. Chuck St. Clair tweets in, you were discussing quarterback release, Greg. Why did Peyton Manning throw a wobbly ball? I don't think that was until later in his career.
Yeah, it really wasn't until way later.
Trust me, I can tell you.
Because it became more and more about throwing without the laces. It really wasn't about, for him, like getting the ball up and down out of shotgun. He wasn't worried about the wobble. Wobble doesn't matter. If it's where it needs to be, who cares what it looks like? Spirals are ego. Like they really are. They're ego.
I can tell you this. One of my favorite things to do when I was being recruited, and I would go to visits for games at Tennessee, is we would go stand near and I went to a couple of games, so I kind of knew that this would happen. We would go stand by the pylon in the end zone because we knew that there was a certain point in time in warm-ups when they would start throwing fades. And watching Peyton Manning turn the ball over from about midfield on some of those throws was one of the coolest things you could ever watch.
Yeah.
I mean, that thing would nosedive like a punt. And it looked so effortless for him. I can remember being a little bit younger when my dad would take me to games, watching Eric Zier. He would, right before kick, after the captains went out, he would walk out around midfield and he would just flip his wrist and the ball would go like into the middle of the end zone and he would turn that thing over. It looked like a punt from up in the stands. And so we would go stand on the right by the pylon and watch Peyton throw these fades and the ball would just like nosedive. And you're just like, how in the world does he do that? It was just so impressive to see because it was the tightest spiral you've ever seen. So I think that came later in his career.
Yes. Because it became more and more about like goal line fades and stuff like that. I mean, it wasn't wobbly all the time. I can promise you that.
Also, Jamie Bailey tweeting in, Greg, have you ever considered being a quarterback coach?
No. Bunch of psychos. Can't deal with
So
them.
hold on. You will only take an offensive coordinator job?
OC job or I would probably do O-line.
I think when you heard that, you think he's talking about like the George Whitfield thing. What about like a quarterback coach on a team, like a team's quarterback coach?
I could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
can tell you what I'm not dealing with. A bunch of psycho parents. Oh, my son's great quarterback. No, he's not.
What if you just all you got to do is get broomsticks and make them duck before they throw in the sand?
What a joke. Cameras are always rolling. Look how hard they're working. All joking aside, if I could choose
how much better do you get when you take your drops in the sand? Immediately.
I don't know. I'm like a speed training guy. It's kind of changed a little bit. Like, I think you need quick feet. Like, stability is understood. Like, I don't believe in sand work when it comes to quarterback drops. I think it's all for visuals. Oh, come train with me. We train on the beach.
What about throwing in the waves? Like, it's just like pressure hitting you, right?
Uh-huh.
It's like taking a hit from J.J. Watt. Same thing as getting hit by a wave.
Very similar.
If you can get hit by a wave, you can get hit by a fridge.
It's true. It's better than some of the things they do, guys.
It's no different.
Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of things I see on TV from quarterback coaching that I never did and not sure I ever would do.
I got a totally random question the other day along these lines. And it was a compliment. The guy's being nice. And he's like, have you ever considered being a DC? And I was like, no. I would love it, but I'll be the first one to admit to you, my knowledge of coverage is nowhere near where it needs to be to actually coordinate a defense. Nowhere near.
Seriously, what?
Where it needs to be.
All joking aside, could you coach anything other than the O-line?
I coach D-line easy. I coach tight ends.
D-line's easy. All you got to do is yell at them.
You asked me, could I coach it? I could coach running backs.
I'd hope so.
Go to the right.
You better be able to recruit. Too.
Inside arm up.
Recruiting is like the tight ends and running backs coaches are basically just full-time recruiters.
Yeah.
O-lines, you're grinding on coaching.
I used to be so jealous of our tight ends when Lionel James was the tight end coach because he was the happiest guy in the facility, on the practice field, the nicest guy you'll ever meet. They'd be over there jogging, catching these little over-the-shoulder passes. We were over there grinding on the sled. They'd come over for less than a period. And he'd be like, all right, guys, and Trickett would get mad. And he's like, y'all need to be over here blocking with us. And I was like, I wish I was over there catching passes with them. Oh, man. It wasn't fun. I could coach maybe linebackers. It'd be a stretch, though. God, we'd be a group of heat-seeking missiles. We'd get fooled on jet sweeps and split zone and orbit motions every time. Because first sight of the ball might be going to somebody, we would just be full attack mode.
You'd average 0.8.
Just take them out. Take them out.
Tell me what would have more on a per game basis? Chad Baker Mazzara technicals or Cole Cubelic's coach linebackers targeting penalties?
Probably targeting. Actually, I will say this. Like, that's something that.
Here we go.
But no, I go back to the old school spearing poster that was in the locker room back in the day. Like, guys, I think form tackling is something we'd spend a lot of time on.
Yeah, probably.
If I was a linebacker.
Sure, that'd be fun. Guys would love that.
What are you going to be over there working on? Like recognition? Like reading tight end?
I really believe.
Coverage?
I really believe.
Here's how you get in phase. Drop your hip. You got to swivel your hips when you come over out of this route.
I can tell you this. I could coach every position except DBs. I could not coach DB. I don't know anything about the technique. The technique to me is just a freaking mind-blowing experience.
The technique also sounds like it doesn't make sense.
It's so dumb.
When they talk about it.
I would be like, why would you do that?
Flip your hips. What does that even mean, coach?
Flip them.
I don't know what the hell that means.
Get out of your pedal.
Sink your hips.
It
was cool to hear when we asked Saban about it one time, and he was talking about. I was like, you keep talking about what these receivers are reading on the DB. Like, what can a receiver even read on a DB to get an idea of what's happening? He's like, whether his hips drop. He's like, first thing you watch coming out, receiver comes out, hips go down. He's like, you got to go do this. You got to go do that. It's the first thing you read. And I was just like, I have never heard anybody in football in my entire life say that. This is like 3 years ago.
It's like when you're covering the basketball player. Hey, you stay in front of his belly button. Yeah. 3-point stance.
I want to hear somebody tell somebody about that. When they're covering Allen Iverson. Just stay in front of his belly button, guy. That's all you got to do.
Don't look at his head. Look at his belly button.
His belly button's right there. You didn't stay in front of it.
Yeah, well, the ball is over
Coach,
there.
He looks like the literal Flash playing in front of me.
Correct.
Sorry.
You can have it.
My lateral quickness wasn't on par with his.
No.
Whoops.
You might be able to get away with that, the Mountain Brook Y.
Yeah.
You ain't getting away with that.
I want to see Tyreek Hill run a slant and be like, just drop your hips.
That's all you got to do.
Stay in front of him. Yeah,
Well, we've become so
not
good.
quite going to work that way.
So you would be more of a technician of a coach as a linebackers coach? Be more technique?
When it came to tackling, yes.
I could see him cut off sleeve hoodie, like freaking running. Honestly, you'd look like Dilfer, except I could see, like you would. You would look just like Dilfer. You'd have a beard.
Cut off sweatshirt.
Trying
to sweat midsection sweat a little bit
trying
more.
to lose some weight, like getting a workout in. Like you have one of those like
God, it's such a cheat code that doesn't
parachute-
work. All the coaches did it.
They did.
They cut the sleeves off a sweatshirt. It's 107, and you can tell they're just trying to lose belly weight is all they are. Get on the damn treadmill, coach. Just for 10 minutes. You're not losing weight doing that.
No.
They all think you are. Hell, I do it sometimes. It doesn't
we
work.
gotta sweat it out.
I just need the belly to sweat, though.
Yeah, because whatever area is sweating, that's what gets skinny. That's why your head's so skinny, because it doesn't. Just all the sweat comes out of that. It's like you're juicing the orange that is your belly. That's what it is. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
It is, but everybody does it.
All of them. They wear those stupid umbrella parachute jackets that have tight sleeves.
Yeah, the batting cage, batting cage jackets back in the day.
100%.
The VP jackets.
That's it.
That's it.
The sweatsuits.
Yeah, it's literally like it's like wearing a garbage bag over your body.
Yeah, get some belly fat out today. Yeah. Arms don't need it though.
No, arms are
in
good.
good shape.
Arms been good. I can do curls. I just can't do crunches.
Oh,
I
I would not go with the visor. I'll tell you that.
No.
visor.
Top of the head. Can't
No,
get
I think
burned.
I know exactly.
I don't think I would not go straw hat.
You would go bucket hat.
Probably.
100% you go bucket.
Hell, I've gone bucket hat on the sideline of UFL
Of course
games.
you have. It's bucket hat. It's a lock. You're an absolute lock for a bucket hat. No doubter.
Yeah.
It's for skin cancer awareness. Shut up. You're trying to make a statement.
What statement are you making wearing a bucket hat?
That you don't care? You would be Bo Davis, dude. You would be Bo. Like I visualize you.
I feel like he kind of did the straw hat some.
No straw hat, straight bucket. You would be Bo Davis. Nor he wore a baseball hat that had more sweat rings than you can even imagine.
Yeah.
Like I mean, you see them like at different layers. It's like when you cut a tree down, you see how old it is by counting the lines in it in the middle. That's how old that hat is. So you look at the sweat rings up to the top.
My wife has tried to get me to do the material that is the bucket hats, but it's kind of like the in between cowboy hat, safari hat. She's like, this would be great for you. Like no sun on your shoulders and the neck. Like your head's not getting burned. I'm like, there's 0% chance I'm wearing that.
So like the one with like the do-rag kind of like hanging down in the back?
No. I know what you're talking about that.
Right. I thought okay.
There used to be an old painter's cap back in the day that had that like flap that came down. And I think that's exactly what it was for. Is all the painters wouldn't get the neck burnt when they're out there painting.
Yeah. I used to have one of those, except it was like Goofy. Like it was like Goofy from Disney.
Yes,
like a Goofy face.
That's the hat. Yeah.
The ears out of the back.
Yes. That was 100%. The hat, but not the same
This
mold.
is fire.
No, this would be it's I'm trying to think like who would wear this. Kind of like new age safari guys. It doesn't make sense. Not like the professor guys like Indiana Jones, but like a little bit more advanced. It's not a good look for anybody, really.
It's a terrible look. I honestly, like, if I
you
were
got to be in Jurassic Park to make that hat look good.
If I were a coach, and I know I would probably get made fun of, I would strongly consider cowboy hat. I don't think I'd do straw hat.
All right, Dion.
Straw hat's too old.
Like a real cowboy hat?
Like a real cowboy hat. I'm not talking like a fancy one. I'm talking straw.
Can't take the Texas out of it, man.
I think I'd go cowboy. It's the most dude, think about it. Over the course of hundreds of years, Yellowstone style, 1883, they're rocking cowboy hats. Why? Because it's the most practical way of avoiding the sun. Straw hats are for the birds. Plus, you look old. I don't want to look like Greg Norman out there in 1987. I don't want to look like him. I don't.
Chichi Rodriguez doesn't do it for you?
Same deal.
Come on.
Lee Trevino? No, you can have it. I'm out.
Trevino did the hats that are coming back now, the rope hats.
Yes, he did.
That was like his deal back in the day, which I'm down with those.
Rope hats are fire.
You got to get the neck taken care of sometimes, though.
I think I would go
I just think
hat.
cowboy hats a lot. Moving around, coaching. Like I guess
Get
like
mad,
Bum Phillips did it.
Yeah.
I mean, he did it.
It works. I don't think
Glanville did it a little bit at
Would
times.
you go, if you were a head coach, would you go full suit on the sideline?
Absolutely not.
I would.
I'd
go
be
full
straight
suit.
Bruce Pearl.
No, I'd go full suit.
Untucked polo, not buttoned up. Why are we trying to look good when we're going to be moving around, sweating, yelling at people, throwing stuff at people?
I'd go full suit. I'd go straight jean stallings on the sideline. 100% with a cowboy hat.
With a cowboy hat?
I would. Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
100% I would. No, not PJ Fleck. That's
you get
corny.
fired the first game you lost just because of how you looked.
No, I wouldn't. I'd never lose.
This guy looks like a joke. Get him out of here.
Never
At least
lose.
it's not a black T-shirt with Alabama written across it.
Oh, boy.
It almost got you fired. Well, not you, but someone.
Hoodie. Hater. I don't know why anyone cares. How about you just get what do you wear? What you want to wear?
Exactly.
That's why I would.
Exactly.
It would be cozy. I'm gonna say that. Well, y'all want me to coach all up tight? I can't move well in a suit. Like suits are constricting. Why would I want to coach in a suit?
Well, maybe you just.
The only thing dumber than coaches wearing suits are broadcasters wearing suits.
I agree with that.
You're calling a football game, and it's like we're going to homecoming.
We should wear half zips. For real. College style.
Or polos.
No, polos are dumb. You can have that.
What?
Polos are dumb.
So what you're telling me? You go cover a game. You go call a game in Tuscaloosa the second week of September at 2:30. You're gonna wear a quarter zip?
Yeah.
Man.
Stop.
100%. I think we should go as far as to wear like country club logos on them, just so you can rock some flash.
So you have to get them from the company. Just
100%.
grab one you had in the.
That's it.
I did get this from Augusta a couple years ago.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that trip to Oakmont.
Yeah,
gives you a little identity.
I think I'm calling a game in Pitt today. I'm gonna go Oakmont.
There you go.
I'm calling a game at Rutgers. I'll go Boxer
Let's go local.
Yep.
Every time.
I'm at Georgia Southern. I'm going Ohoopee. You can have it. Honestly, though, I like wearing a suit. I think it's professional. I also think it's old school. I would tip the cap to the old school. I'd go suit. What would Bear do?
Who does?
What would Bear Bryant do?
They didn't make athletic gear when he coached.
I'm sorry.
All they had were the bike shorts that came up to your belly button and T-shirts that were probably like triple thick beefy tee cotton T-shirts back in the day. Yep. That's it. And they had one. Every coach and player had one T-shirt.
That's what Auburn had prior to when they signed with Under Armour.
Oh, they went undefeated. The clock's ticking, buddy. We got about a month and we're good.
Oh, then we're gonna go swish.
Yeah. New age.
We'll be good.
Haters. I'm 100%.
What would Bear Bryant wear? He didn't have a choice.
I'm going suit.
Options were limited.
They didn't have Lululemon when Bear was coaching.
Mizzen and Main, dry fit.
There was no Adidas. There was not even Nike.
Would you swap up the cowboy hat week to week?
Oh, yeah. Come on.
I'll say you.
I'm going to be a little swaggy.
I got you.
Would you have like a bird feather on the side of it?
See, like people make fun of me. I wear boots sometimes with my.
Would you have matchsticks?
I actually wear boots with my suits almost all the time now.
Sticking out the side? Matchsticks? Or the pack of matches?
No, I just have my skull mint just
would
wrapped around my cowboy hat. What do you mean?
Have some Zins taped to it.
Yeah. No Zins.
Would you have like...
If I get into coaching, I'm going back to the backy. I'm not doing freaking Zins. If I get into coaching, I'm back. Buy stock in skull.
No, just go like long cut red man.
No, I'm not doing that.
Why?
I never liked the red man.
The goat did it?
I've had since I've quit dipping, I think I've had more Red Man Golden Blend than any of them.
On Tuesdays.
I don't dip. I miss it
during
every day.
The show anymore.
He said missed it.
I miss it every day. I debate when I pull out of our office, there's a gas station straight across the street. I think about pulling in there every day. Every day.
Hadn't seen you in a while, buddy.
God, it's good. I don't know what else I'd buy over there. They are right across the street from a police station, so I don't know what else
anything you want.
I'll say this: that hadn't stopped people from getting frisky.
Every color vape, imagine, and go the other side and get purple drink if you need it.
Heck yeah!
You call it. All right. Speaking of coaching staff.
Speaking of spring breaks next week, do we get back on the Zins for spring break?
I can't. I can't blame you. I can't coach you on that.
I wouldn't blame you.
Either way,
my goal is to get
but you gotta get up to sixes though. Like you can't.
No, you can have that. So. I'm not about to get spinny. You can have that. Does Cole start zinning by summer?
Doubtful. There still is a lot of flu going around though. I don't know if Zin helps with that, or if it helps with pollen, I'll go for it. That's right around the corner, pollen season. Make your home healthier with Trane's Clean Effects Home Air Cleaner. Maybe it's the skull on the carpet of your house making the air bad. Removes up to 99.9% of airborne particles, including those that cause virus, 100 times more effective than standard air filters, 8 times more effective than HEPA room filters. Find a dealer near you at Trane.com. It's hard to stop a train. Speaking of coaching staffs, there's one in state that is kind of becoming impressive. Well, if you've been a fan of one program at least, we'll tell you who it is and who's on it next. Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, we're back. 9:43, Friday, March 21st. Have we seen the tape on this West Alabama coaching staff?
Yes.
By the way, they do a great job on social. The Twitter account does a great job. Just click your link on the Twitter account at some point and just give it a look. Maybe some adjustments possibly need to be made. Here is Scott Cochran's staff so far at West Alabama. Reggie Ragland just hired as the director of player personnel. Bo Scarborough, the director of high school relations. Damian Square, you tell me when you feel a bit of a theme here. Damian Square is the defensive line coach. O.J. Howard, the director of player development. Blake Sims is your wide receiver coach, and Ronnie Clark is your running back coach.
So you're suggesting there's a theme?
Slightly.
Slight to moderate theme.
But we also know that a lot of coaching is relationships. A lot of coaching is being able to have those conversations with guys wanting to come talk to you, wanting to be around you. And I would imagine a lot of the kids that are being recruited right now remember watching Blake Sims play, remember watching O.J. Howard play, remember watching Damian Square, Ronnie Clark, Reggie Ragland play. So these are guys that he knows, obviously. These are guys he has relationships. So I don't think it's a bad path to go down for your first time. Thomas Fletcher, special teams coach, he was at Bama at one point, right?
Yes. He's the long snapper, right?
Special teams and tight ends coach. You're saying he was the long snapper?
Yes.
I assume. I didn't see the tape.
I believe so.
How many times have you actually gone and watched special teams tape?
That'd be a 0.
Like preparing for a game?
Literally never.
People get surprised when I don't. Like, you didn't watch the field goal team? It's like, absolutely not one single time.
No.
The only time that I have put it on is we had Vanderbilt one time this year. I don't think it was Bama. I think it was Texas. And this kid came down and absolutely just destroyed a guy. And for Monday night, I went and got it because I wanted us to show his, because he was like the first one down there every time. And then he just destroyed this guy. I was like, we got to show this. It's the one time I've gone to a special teams tape and watched it. And then I think I pulled the actual coach's copy of Kick Six a few times and watched it.
Oh, God.
What?
It's a good special teams play. So it's a third of the game, man. It's another phase of the game.
I'm just saying I went and watched it. I felt like other angles would be cool to see.
Check out Davis.
Yep.
Zip it.
There it was.
All you guys
It's like
zip
music
it.
to your ears, isn't it, Cole?
It's just a cool play to watch.
Let's go, Creighton. 2 can play that game.
Watch out for those colonials, man.
Yeah. You
Colonial
got that
Colonels.
today.
Yeah. Why you gotta be so woke?
Wow. Hold on a second. We just went a totally different direction here. That was not what I was expecting on the show. By the way, Cam Woods, 15.1s per game, 5.1 assists per game for Robert Morris today. Colonials taking on Alabama. 9th NCAA tournament appearance. That's as fast as I could get to something else right there as possible. Marion Dickinson, 80 blocks this year. That's 7th in the nation. Another name you're going to need to know for Robert Morris today. Not that this one should be competitive at all, but we'll see how it goes. We already talked about our brackets. What are we expecting from the rest of today, the rest of the weekend? We'll get to that and more next on Mac and Cube in the morning. 9:50 Friday, March 21st. We'll get to our Super Sofa game of the weekend here in just a moment. Watch live, Jocks, on YouTube. Search WGOX 945 and listen online each and every day. Go to jocksfm.com.
Bill said Buick GMC is the GMC dealer of the year. They're amazing. Really appreciate the experience I've had when I've gone and shopped at the national champion of GMC dealerships. I've bought multiple vehicles from them, 3 to be exact. We'll buy the next one from them as well because it's just that good of an experience. You guys will understand what I mean when you go up there and you see a GMC Sierra that you would pay $66,000 for locally. Take a short drive up to Coleman, you get it for $52,795. That's $13,000 off the sticker price. That's a loaded GMC Sierra SLT 4x4 with leather and everything. It's an awesome vehicle and one that you should take advantage of. It's the reason why 75% of their business is repeat customers because you have a better experience when you shop with Bill Smith. Take the short drive to Coleman. You're glad you did. You can also shop online. Have it delivered right to your driveway at BillSmithBuickGMC.com.
A couple of notes around commitments, transfer portal, coaching news here, just real quick before we get into our Super Sofa game of the week. Arkansas has a commitment, basketball. Kareem Ratel from Lebanon. He's 6'9".
All right.
He's 20. And he has been playing professionally in Lithuania.
That doesn't feel right.
Just come on down.
Anybody.
Playing
Come
basketball professionally?
Come all.
He could be playing
Where'd you
highlight.
recruit him from? The pros?
Yeah, why would he go to the league?
Why would we not? I mean, are we just, how long are we away from so-and-so didn't play in college, made his way to the NBA? He's committed to Alabama. Coming back.
All right.
Where you been playing? The Magic? Okay. Good. Welcome in.
Alabama
Heck
might
yeah.
be better than them, actually. So
Also,
back.
John Emery announced he will return for his 7th season of college football. Looked like he was going to be able to help LSU last year before that ACL. He's had a lot of ACLs, by the way. Stanford coach Troy Taylor has been accused of bullying and belittling staffers.
Oh, gosh.
Cal has made a new hire as their general manager of the football program, Ron Rivera.
Saw that.
Oh, okay.
Cal's putting a good staff together.
Riverboat
It's
Ron.
impressive.
Okay.
No, we mentioned Arkansas in the basketball world of recruiting. Arkansas Pine Bluff has a guard that will enter the portal. 6'8" junior from Los Angeles, averaged 19.6, 9.5 rebounds, and 4.5 assists per game this year. Shot 50% from the field, 38.5% from three. Dr. Bailey is in the portal.
Like his first name is Doctor.
I'm not sure
Oh,
what exactly he practices other than 18 a game, but Dr. Bailey
okay.
is headed to the
was
portal.
he a doctor like Dr. Dre is a doctor?
Dr. J, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
They're in the
Oops.
same
Love
practice.
that.
Dr. Pepper. Got it. Okay.
Same.
Dr. Pepper.
All in one. It's all there. So, yeah, just a couple updates from around college football, college basketball there. People moving around and taking different jobs and recruiting professionals now.
My dentist growing up was Dr. Ravi Doctor. His name is Dr. Doctor.
We had a kid in high school named Michael.
Really?
Really?
Now, cheated a little bit because
Michael?
mother got remarried and took the new name
Yeah.
to be
Oh,
Michael. So I was like, okay, well, no one named you Michael. And that's-
Right.
I mean, technically she did.
He took it though. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not gonna say that I'm not gonna put that completely on the parents.
It was given. It wasn't earned.
Rivers, or Brown.
Yeah.
UAB, we got Tony.
Where's Tone?
I don't know.
Didn't make it.
Mm-mm.
Okay. All right, so let's get to our Super Sofa game of the week. You only get one. Greg, let's guess where you're going for your TD's Fine Furniture Super Sofa game of the weekend.
I am so confident in today's game. I'm going to even get a little creative with it. So I will go to Sunday where the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Do that.
I'm going to. Want to know why? Because I don't care. I'm
Because
about
you're not
that
going to
life.
be here Monday to answer for it.
True. Yes. All right. Perfect. Alabama against the winner of St. Mary's and Vanderbilt. I don't know what time
Well, hold on.
it's tipping.
Call that game then. If you're calling Bama, call that game.
Don't have to. Don't care.
Who do you have in your bracket?
Don't want it.
Good.
St. Mary's.
That's what you want.
All
Yeah,
right.
because the SEC stinks.
Damian, your Super Sofa game of the weekend.
I'm going Baylor, Mississippi State, the first game of today. If it's interrupting the young and the restless, I might as well watch the game.
Wow.
11:15 on CBS. Baylor, Mississippi State. That's my TD's Fine Furniture.
Doesn't feel like many people on that show are young. Maybe restless. But
No, they are.
Wow.
There's a few.
Unnecessary.
I know.
John?
For me, I am going to take the matchup that everyone really kind of wanted, especially in the coaching searches. Arkansas and St. John, Saturday, 1:40 CBS.
Yeah, there's a lot
Coach
around that
Cal
one.
versus Rick Pitino. By the way, you can get Super Sofa or anything for the home at TD's Fine Furniture this month only. Take advantage of TD's tax rebate sale. Anything you purchase, they'll rebate the sales tax right back to you. Add that to their lowest price guarantee, and there's no reason to shop anywhere else than TD's Fine Furniture in Summerton.
Stick with me here. I don't necessarily think that this game is going to be competitive, but right now for me, it would be 150 today on CBS. 16 seed Mount St. Mary's against a 1 seed Duke. I just want to see what number one Cooper Flagg's going to look like and how healthy that Duke team is, because they're a national championship contender if they're healthy.
Yes.
If they're not, I think that changes that region. It may change the national championship picture. So that would be my Super Sofa game of the weekend for this weekend. We are not back Monday. Three-man front is next.
Wee-hoo.